So the
Yes, I
sorry
for the post. Did you put that in? I think Janine brought it in.
That is good. That'll give us all that.
Yeah. Should hang it up in our, yeah. Then get the bizarre, yeah, kind of like.
Oh, no, I think Jackson Better. Jackson Better.
Did I give you I gave you the TV remote.
I think we got nothing over there that we need to bring over, right? You got everything you need?
I got everything I
Okay,
need.
sounds good. And obviously, reinforcements are here in terms of copy and doing that stuff.
Mary.
Did everybody sign in? You signed in? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So they haven't read into the record. Are you the one who's going to read them all into the record?
I guess I am now that the AG is not going to be here.
And other duties as assigned. I love that coffee mug.
Thank you.
You can almost take a bath in that.
It's appropriate, right? Who needs sleep?
For you, yeah.
So, like the kids you have. So you got one of the solar plants. And then the other company does. And then when we are to do, I have.
I reminded them to sign in upstairs. And I'll make sure and clarify that comments will be by the rules rather than the sign-in.
Just follow the
Yeah.
script. Follow the script. Do not go astray. Hey, can you hear us? Okay, I'm gonna mute us. Thank you. Bye.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, sounds like you need to turn the volume up, Commissioner. It's pretty low.
Someone get that back door, please? Yeah.
The recording has stopped. This meeting is being recorded.
Hey, Justin, I guess he would probably, yeah. Yeah, that's trouble with that. You want Max to be able to see up here smiling. I know. Oh, they didn't.
Armando was coming with the their year.
I think well, how are you doing? Yeah.
Unless he's on Samsung. There's two Samsungs.
Yeah. And the one he's built, trying to get back on.
How much formula?
Oh my God, it's so much fun. The training that I'm on into it. Training around
Okay, there was a couple of things, Richard.
Yeah.
There was a manila folder for Buffington's.
How much you tricked out? All right, it's,
Oh my God, the one hit them all and he's okay.
Yeah.
They had a force for the venue. Venue that they use money for. Now it's a college.
That's it. Thank you. You're the best.
That's like saying it's horrible.
I know. Well, you should have seen. I've been working on that for like a week now.
Clean it up.
He asked me, can we get this printed? And I've tried shrinking it. I'm like, and so yesterday he was like, just get this information. And I'm like, that'll work.
And she puts the date on there manually. Date 1/1/2023, 1/2/2023. I'm not lying. You know, do it. So everything's manual. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the purpose of the spreadsheet, because I was thinking last night, I was like, okay, I was kind of complaining to Richard. I'm like, why do we need a spreadsheet for everything? Like, you guys, I understand, because you can put in formulas and not have to think about it. You just plug in a number and so I was like, okay, I guess I can kind of see that, but
Just because we read all the rules first in the record, and then we go to the rules meeting for public comment.
Exactly, yeah. And what's gonna happen for me, is gonna now pay my role first.
Okay.
That's what
How do we can hear?
You know, from my heart.
Mama, I am too good at public speaking.
So.
I'm gonna take a break about 11:30 or something. Get lunch. I'll give you.
I've got the card. Do you want me to,
You want to hold the card in order, maybe with the other?
So.
do you,
We'll wait.
maybe we put in, print out some oak tree menus so that everybody can like circle.
I'll get that to you guys. And you guys breaking at 11:30?
11:30. Yeah. It's at 11:30.
I'll bring those in shortly and then just if you need.
Thanks. Oak tree. Yeah.
So ready.
Ready.
Meeting come to order, please. Welcome to our public meeting here at the Mental Racing Commission. It's Thursday, November 30th, 2023. It's about 6 minutes after 9. And, let's start with a roll call, please.
David Hossie Sanchez,
Here.
John Buffington,
Here.
Billy Smith,
Here.
Margaret Branch,
Here.
Bob Petrie,
Here. Great, that's, pledge allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Okay, let's move on to the approval of the agenda. Changes? No changes? Motion, second, Buffington, motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, let's move on to, number 4, rules hearing and public comments. I'll pass them on to our attorney.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sanchez, honorable commissioners. I'm Richard Bustamante. I'm the in-house counsel for the State of New Mexico Racing Commission, and I will be acting as presiding officer for this rules hearing. Our Assistant Attorney General Daniel Rubin was caught up in Santa Fe snow. The purpose of this hearing is for the commission to receive public comment on proposed amendments to the commission's current rules and regulations. On behalf of the commission, welcome to everybody present at this hearing in person as well as by Zoom. As we indicated earlier, we have all of our commissioners present, and thank you. I'm also present here to advise the commission and conduct this rules hearing. Also present, we have Executive Director of the Commission, Izzy Trejo, and Denise Chavez, Commission Law Firm. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to and according with the provisions of the New Mexico Horse Racing Act. That's New Mexico Statutes Annotated, Section 60-1A-1 through Section 30, the Open Meetings Act, Sections 10-15-1 through 10-15-4, and the New Mexico State Rules Act, New Mexico Statutes Annotated, Section 14-4-1 through Section 11. The legislative provisions specifically authorizing and mandating the commission to adopt administrative rules is located in the Horse Racing Act, Section 60-1A-4B1. And again, this hearing is being held in accordance with the State Rules Act. The New Mexico State Rules Act regulates rulemaking procedures and activities which are before all boards and commissions. You may contact your Secretary of State's office for additional information on that matter. Please note that the commission will separately deliberate and take action on these proposed rules at the close of this hearing. And I respectfully ask that the commissioners refrain from comment until such time and limit themselves to any questions of any witnesses. Now we move to attendance. If you're appearing in person, please make sure you sign the attendance sign-in sheet, because that will be made part of an exhibit of this hearing and made part of the record. If you're attending virtually, we will also have to include an electronic record of who is logging in. So therefore, we ask that your login information includes your full name, although we cannot require that. Because the rule hearing is a hybrid hearing, meaning attendees in person and virtually, I, as presiding officer, am requesting that anyone who is present for this rule hearing through video and intends to comment on any of the proposed rule amendments, please raise your hand using the raise hand icon in the reactions options on Zoom. Ms. Chavez will unmute you on Zoom so you can make your comments on the proposed rule. And again, you need to limit your comments to the rule that is being considered at that time. If you are physically present here in the boardroom today and would like to make a comment on any of the proposed rules, please raise your hand and I will call upon you when it's your turn to comment. Before making your comments on the specific proposed rule at issue, please state your full name, your affiliation, and the proposed rule that you're commenting on. Ms. Chavez will keep a list of everyone who submitted either a written or oral comment, and that list will become part of the record for this rule hearing. Now we're moving to the procedures. This is a formal proceeding, and as such, it will be recorded. We're recording on Zoom as well as an additional recording. The recording will become part of the rule hearing record as well. Therefore, again, when a person is recognized to address the commission, identify yourselves for the record each time you address the commission, and please speak loudly and clearly so the recorder can pick up your comments. This hearing will be conducted in the following manner. Copies of a draft exhibit of all written comments received by the commission is available at the front outside. In addition, we anticipate that the commission staff will introduce a copy as an exhibit. Commission staff will present all other exhibits to the commission. I will then allow questioning from members of the commission and by the public, and I, as presiding officer, will then rule on the admissibility of the exhibits offered for admission. Exhibits admitted into evidence are available for review by members of the public and will be made available on the commission's website and to members of the public upon request. We will proceed in numerical sequence through each of the proposed rules, and we will address only one rule at a time. However, you may refer to other rules that reasonably relate to the rule being discussed or which relate to your comments. The commission does not follow the rules of evidence, but shall, in the interest of efficiency, reserve the right to limit all testimony deemed irrelevant, redundant, or unduly repetitious. The decision as to whether such testimony is irrelevant, redundant, or unduly repetition shall be made by me as presiding officer. After a person has provided comment, commission members will be permitted to question that person if they so choose. Any member of the audience wishing to question that person may do so after being recognized by me as presiding officer and after identifying themselves for the record. To the extent anyone wishes to make general public comments, I will first allow such comments after the exhibits are introduced. If any public comments are specific to a particular rule amendment, I will ask that you make that comment at the appropriate time, meaning when that specific rule is being addressed and discussed by the commission. At this point, we will move to the entry of the exhibits into evidence. Ms. Chavez, at this time, do you have any exhibits? Oh, I apologize. Yes, sir.
All public comments are going to be held in 3 minutes, but we're going to time it.
That's correct.
I didn't hear that there, but I wanted to be very specific on that. No more than 3 minutes, we're going to time that, okay? Because it's just, this is about the, we're going to have a long day anyway. So make sure you.
Thank you. At the conclusion of this rule hearing, the commission will conduct discussions and take final action on the rules, such as amending, adopting, or tabling them. And now we will proceed forward. And Ms. Chavez, at this time, do you have any exhibits to introduce into evidence?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, please proceed.
Exhibit 1, legal notice published in the New Mexico Register, New Mexico Sunshine Portal, and the Albuquerque Journal. Exhibit 2, notice sent to interested parties. Exhibit 3, proposed amendments to the Commission Rule 15.2.1.7 NMAC entitled Definitions. Exhibit 4, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.1.8 NMAC entitled Commission. Exhibit 5, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.1.9 NMAC entitled Due Process and Disciplinary Action. Exhibit 6, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.2.8 NMAC entitled Associations. Exhibit 7, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.3.8 NMAC entitled Flat Racing Officials General Provisions. Exhibit 8, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.4.8 NMAC entitled Claiming Races. Exhibit 9, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.5.8 NMAC entitled Entries and Nominations. Exhibit 10, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.5.9 NMAC entitled Declarations and Scratches. Exhibit 11, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.5.12 NMAC entitled Horses Ineligible. Exhibit 12, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.5.13 NMAC entitled Running of the Race. Exhibit 13, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.5.14 NMAC entitled Protests, Objections, and Inquiries. Exhibit 14, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.6.8 NMAC entitled Veterinary Practices. Exhibit 15, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.6.9 NMAC entitled Medications and Prohibited Substances. Exhibit 16, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.6.10 NMAC entitled Testing. Exhibit 17, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.6.12 NMAC entitled Physical Inspection of Horses. Exhibit 18, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.7.10 NMAC entitled Simulcast Wagering. Exhibit 19, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 16.47.1.8 NMAC entitled General Provisions. Exhibit 20, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 16.47.1.10 NMAC entitled Trainers. Exhibit 21, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 16.47.1.17 NMAC entitled Human Drug Testing. Exhibit 22, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 16.47.1.18 NMAC entitled Testing Procedures.
All right. Let the record reflect that the commission via Ms. Chavez has introduced into evidence exhibits 1 through 22. Ms. Chavez, regarding exhibits 3 through 22, which are the proposed rules, could you please, for each one of those, read the justification for the proposed amendments or changes into the record?
Yes, sir. For Commission's Rule 15.2.1.7 definitions. The purpose of the proposed amendments is to add the definition of catastrophic injury, update the definitions of maiden and purse, recognizing industry standard resources, and add the definition of substitute steward as means of ensuring race meets can proceed in the event a third steward is unavailable. Exhibit 4, Commission's Rule 15.2.1.8 NMAC entitled Commission. The purpose of the proposed amendments is to provide flexibility for the Commissioner's meeting attendance and to fix typographical errors and cross-references. Exhibit 5, amendments to Commission's Rule 15.2.1.9 NMAC entitled Due Process and Disciplinary Action. The purposes of the proposed amendments are to abridge the rule, expand and define reasons for summary suspension furthering goals of disciplinary processes, provide stewards direction and options when conducting hearings and providing notices of hearings and rulings, modify time frame for payment of fines, and relocate a portion to a more applicable rule section. Exhibit 6, proposed amendments to Commission's Rule 15.2.2.8 NMAC entitled Associations. The purpose of the amendments is to ensure presence of sufficient medical personnel consistent with HISA requirements. Photo finish pictures are not destroyed in the event the Commission needs to review after a race meet has ended. Hold associations accountable for surface conditions. Fix typographical errors and improve confidence in industry by displaying the race replays being reviewed by the Board of Stewards in response to inquiries or objections. Exhibit 7, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.3.8 Flat Racing Officials General Provisions. The purpose of these amendments is to recognize all positions that should be deemed racing officials, to clarify who can fill in as a substitute steward in the event 3 stewards are not available for a race meet, clarify stall allocation being subject to association screening and preference processes, ensure the associations provide sufficient number of veterinarians, and to fix typographical errors. Exhibit 8, proposed amendments to Commission's Rule 15.2.4.8 NMAC entitled Claiming Races. The purpose of these amendments are to eliminate and correct rule conflicts regarding condition of claimed horses and provide clearer understanding of claiming processes, procedures, and stewards voiding a claim. Exhibit 9, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.5.8 NMAC entitled Entries and Nominations. The purpose of the proposed amendments is to provide more detail regarding the process of entering a horse into a race and the responsibilities of the entry clerk. Exhibit 10, proposed amendments to Commission's Rule 15.2.5.9 NMAC entitled Declarations and Scratches. The purpose of the proposed amendment is to clarify when and who has authority to request a scratch of a horse following the closure of entries, and that stewards have sole authority to approve such request and scratch a horse. Exhibit 11, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.5.12 NMAC entitled Horse Ineligible. The purpose of the proposed amendments is to clarify and expand specifics of ineligibility to enter and to start. Sorry. Exhibit 12, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.5.13 NMAC entitled Running of the Race. The purposes of the proposed amendments are to clarify jockey fees, correct typographical errors, and to clarify rules for zero tolerance of electrical devices and improper use of riding crops. Exhibit 13, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.5.14 NMAC entitled Protests, Objections, and Inquiries. The purpose of the proposed amendment is to clarify timing of an objection and expand the reasons for a prior objection. Exhibit 14, proposed amendments to Commission's Rule 15.2.6.8 NMAC entitled Veterinarian Practices. The purpose of the proposed amendment is to clarify treatment restrictions prior to a race to protect the health and welfare of the equine athletes. Exhibit 15, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.6.9 NMAC entitled Medications and Prohibited Substances. The purpose of the amendments is to include Association of Racing Commissioners International's Model Rules of Racing July 21st, 2023, version 12.1.2, and the Association of Racing Commissioners International Controlled Therapeutic Medication Schedule for Horses, April 2023, version 16.0, to further the protection of horses and advise licensees by clarifying impacts resulting from positive medication test results, clarify that both post-race and at a competition positive test results are prima facie evidence a prohibited substance was administered, to fix typographical errors, and to clarify medication restrictions. Exhibit 16, proposed amendments to Commission Rule 15.2.6.10 NMAC entitled Testing. The purposes of proposed amendments are to clarify and ensure security guard escorting horses to test barn is provided by an employee of the association, not the commission, and eliminate repetitive subsection. Exhibit 17, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.6.12 NMAC entitled Physical Inspection of Horses. The purpose of the proposed amendment is to expand the reasons a horse is placed on the veterinarian's list for protection of the horse. Exhibit 18, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 15.2.7.10 NMAC entitled Simulcast Wagering. The purpose of this amendment is to ensure associations' processes in obtaining approval for their simulcast agreements prior to commencement of the race meet are in compliance with both text and spirit of applicable federal law. Exhibit 19, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 16.47.1.8 NMAC entitled General Provisions. The purposes of proposed amendments are to clarify requirements to apply for a license, require applicants apply for and obtain a license for every capacity applicants are working in within the industry, and require licensees report changes of information to Commission and correct typographical errors. Exhibit 20, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 16.47.1.10 NMAC entitled Trainers. The purpose of proposed amendments is to strengthen requirements for becoming a trainer to better ensure and improve health, safety, and welfare of horses, empower Commission to hold trainers accountable for condition of horses in their care, custody, and control. Require trainers exercise due diligence in ensuring newly acquired horses are free of prohibited substances and detail consequences of catastrophic injuries. Exhibit 21, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 16.47.1.17 NMAC entitled Human Drug Testing. The purpose of proposed amendments is to expand reasons under which licensees may be subject to drug and/or alcohol testing, including impacts use of those substances has a public. May I begin again?
Please do.
The purpose of proposed amendments is to expand reasons under which licensees may be subject to drug and/or alcohol testing, including impacts use of those substances has on public's confidence in the industry, and to specify the impacts of the presence of alcohol on the licensee. Exhibit 22, proposed amendments to the Commission's Rule 16.47.1.18 NMAC entitled Testing Procedures. The purposes of proposed amendments are to provide for random or episodic testing without notice, provide for licensee's ability for confirmation test, define what constitutes a refusal to submit to drug or alcohol testing, and create progressive penalty system for licensees who test results show presence of alcohol.
And Ms. Chavez, if you could turn to page 16. And for the record, regarding 15.2.4.6, we will make that a minor suggested or proposed change, exhibit 23. And again, so Ms. Chavez, if you could, for the record, read into the record exhibit 23, and also the justification of basically removing unnecessary.
It's 15.2.4.6, the objective. And it's just to take out unneeded language to abridge the objective of 15.2.4 NMAC.
All right, thank you. Ms. Chavez, does that complete all these minutes?
So far, yes, sir.
All right, thank you. And at this point, honorable commission members are well, hold on a minute, please. Okay, now that the exhibits have been introduced, are there any general questions from the commission members to commission staff about any of the exhibits at this point?
The one from this one through are on the books now, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, members of the commission. All these rules are modifications to our current rule book in NMAC. There's some deletions, of course, and then there's some additions implemented throughout this packet that you have.
we're adding some language. Like catastrophic injury, may require injury resulting in death or asphyxiation of the horse within 72 hours of injury. So we gotta define what a catastrophic injury is. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, members of the commission, yes, that is the definition utilized on a national level. Because some tracts have asked, well, what exactly we need to define, so we are utilizing the definition that's used consistently throughout the country.
So on this chart that was given to us earlier today, a horse that died of colic, that's not a, right? No, or a walker accident, is that catastrophic?
No, sir.
Define catastrophic. What do you think? What
Well,
is this thing?
Well, if a horse, and I'll go as far as along the lines of what you just mentioned, a horse that rears its head in the starting gate and doesn't compete in the race, but does die, that does not count on a racetrack's ratio of catastrophic injuries per thousand starting. A horse that breaks from the gate, things a shattered set point in the race, he's hauled off and not necessarily euthanized on the back. Right there, really haven't put anything in the back of the car. And within 74 hours, mainly the rest of the horse and homes, then that would count as a catastrophic. That would go against the tax count.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Honorable Commissioners, any other general questions?
Come on, and is there room for comment? Yeah.
Not yet. Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, any other question, any question? Okay,
All right, thank you. At this point, are there any audience members who would like to make a general comment about what they've heard so far? And again, with all due respect, we will be limiting comments to 3 minutes. First of all, anybody in the audience wants to make a general comment about what they've heard so far? And again, we will go over each individual rule separately. So keep that in mind, but any general comments about what's heard so far?
On this rule, the one that.
No, just on what they've heard so far in terms of the list of all the rules. Yeah, and then we will go through each rule individually. You'll have an opportunity to question and comment as well as the public. So no comments generally about what you folks have heard so far? All right, thank you. And I turn to the folks in Zoom, and Ms. Chavez, can you tell us anybody who has a general comment?
Yes, Your Honor, Candy Izal's got her hand up, so I'm gonna unmute her.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Chavez, members of the commission. Hold on, I'm getting a reverberation. Hold on, I don't know why. Let me undo this one. Okay, let's see if that's better. On one of your rules, and I've had to turn off my other screen, but it has to do with drug and alcohol testing. I feel that those particular rules, you're ending them. I don't know why it's doing that, I apologize. It's ending with alcohol, and it's not including the drug aspect of it. You need to be consistent whenever that rule is discussed later, in my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Zell. Anybody else, Ms. Chavez?
I just want to make note that our Assistant Attorney General, Daniel Rubin, is on Zoom, and I've unmuted him in case he needs to assist us.
All right, thank you. Any other general comments from the folks attending virtually? Ms. Chavez?
I don't see any other hands raised.
All right, thank you. I will now open the floor to our commissioners and members of the audience for comments on each separate rule. Both members of the commission and the audience may question each witness upon being recognized to speak. Discussions by the commission and roll call voting on each separate proposed rule will follow the completion of public comments. And again, remember, we're going to go over each rule separately. So best if you have any comments specific to the rule, save them until that rule is up at the table. At this time, honorable commissioners, would any of you like to question commission staff on Exhibit 3, 15.2.1.7 NMAC entitled Definitions? And commission members, you'll find that on page 1 of your meeting materials under tab A.
I had a point of clarification on number 19. When we talk about first, is the total dollar amount including but not limited to extra leave money for which the race is contested, whether it be at the time of the race or at the date. Could you clarify that for me?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Buffington, members of the commission. It's going to be my wish that we modify some of the verbiage of that, but the intent of that rule is to include the money that's listed on the official program as NMHABA money or breeders money on the program, that the jockeys are afforded their winning cut of that purse money. There was issue in Oklahoma that the Jockeys Guild advised me of, in which the breeders there didn't think the jockeys should receive their cut of that bonus money in the purse. So we're just assuring that it's protected. It's in the program. It's listed as the official purse, like 30,000 plus 7,000 NMHABA fund money. We want to assure that the jockey that give us 10% of the 30,000 plus the other funds.
And they have been doing that.
They have been instead of saying,
Gray area away.
yes,
Okay, but it's being done here now.
yes, it's being done correctly, but just, you never know.
It could be a problem later, so
Yeah, so,
good point of clarification.
yes, sir.
Any other commissioner questions for commission staff regarding Exhibit 3 definition?
So we're, Commissioner Sanchez, we're adding 12 to this room. 12.
Yes.
Yeah. So this stories clarification. Yeah, want to make sure.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, due to some litigation the agency's experienced, the agency merely wants to safeguard the industry to continue to flow should we not have adequate number of stewards required by statute, which is 3. For example, I believe it was last year, not this past year, but the previous year at the during the All-American Security, we had 2 stewards go down in Albuquerque, and we had overlap. We had 1 steward in Albuquerque and only 2 in Ruidoso. We adhered to the statute. We would have had to cancel the All-American Security. So we put a substitute steward, which was permitted by rule to sit in as a 3rd steward in order to adhere to the statutes and to keep the event going. So this is a safeguard so racing can continue just in case any unforeseen incidents occur. I think it benefits the industry. I'd rather have a substitute steward in there that has some decent knowledge of horse racing versus canceling racing.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that.
That's all. I appreciate
Very
that.
good clarification. Any other questions, Commissioners?
Thank you, Commissioner. At this time, members of the public can comment basically. And again, this is only regarding Exhibit 3 definitions. Anybody in the audience have a comment about that? Please raise your hand, identify yourselves, and you've got 3 minutes to make your comment.
Thank you. Tom Gottschalk, New Mexico Horse Breeders, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, Director Trejo. The breeders submitted a letter to the commission that should be in the packet, I would assume, regarding the definition of the purse. I just wanted to state that our concerns or questions were clarified with Director Trejo's statement. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Mr. Heinrich?
Fred Heinrich, Sunland Park Racetrack. We have submitted written comments in response to a number of these. Instead of adding them every time one of the regulations proposed changes is discussed, I'm asking whether the commission has those and will consider those.
And basically all written comments will be made part of the record. And so therefore the comments that you made will basically be part of the record and they'll be in front of the commission during their deliberations.
And so where are those comments written? Do we have a copy of them?
Right here. Right here.
Okay. Do they have them in this packet?
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyone else in the audience with a comment regarding Exhibit 3 definition? And now for the folks attending virtually, Ms. Chavez, do we have any raised hands for comments regarding definition?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chris Mackerlane of Zia Park has his hand raised.
Mr. Mackerlane, please identify yourself, your affiliation, and you've got 3 minutes.
Christopher Mackerlane, Penn Entertainment on behalf of Zia Park Racetrack. Just to echo Mr. Heinrich's comments, Zia Park also did make written comments, not only on this section, but multiple sections being deliberated today. We hope that those will be taken into consideration when the commission deliberates on those matters. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Chavez?
And just for the record, Mr. Mackerlane's and Mr. Heinrich's comments are combined together in the packets I just handed you.
Thank you, Ms. Chavez. Any other hands raised virtually?
I thought I saw one, but it looks like he put his hand down, so no.
Quickly,
Mr. Gondra?
Ms. Chavez, would that include the breeders' submissions to the commission as well?
Yes,
For
sir.
the commissioners to deliberate?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Assuming no other public comments from folks attending virtually. Now we're turning to Exhibit 4, Rule 15.2.1.8 NMAC, entitled Commission. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for commission staff regarding the proposed changes to Exhibit 4?
Pretty straightforward.
All right, okay, thank you. At this point, regarding Exhibit 4, the 15.2.1.8 entitled Commission, do we have any comments from the folks in the audience? Please raise your hand. All right, none were raised. Ms. Chavez, do we have any raised hands in the virtual room regarding Rule 15.2.1.8?
No, sir, I don't see any hands raised.
All right, thank you, Ms. Chavez. We're proceeding to Exhibit 5, of Rule 15.2.1.9, due process and disciplinary action. That's tab C for the commissioner's books. Honorable commissioners, any questions for commission staff regarding the due process and disciplinary action proposed with the changes?
I had one question under the summary suspension. The words that were added were integrity, the welfare of the horse racing industry. Can you comment on that? That would be 3A.
Before we go on, each commissioner, we have to identify ourselves with the being reported. And that would help. Okay. If you would.
John Buffington.
There you go.
And,
We know who you are.
yeah, that's it.
The recorder doesn't.
I knew that and I didn't do it.
Okay.
So I will. So anyway, I had a question on the summary suspension to the words that were added, which was integrity. Integrity was the word that was added.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Buffington, members of the commission, the agency felt the addition of the word integrity was integral to adding. Now we run into a lot of bad people that come through the industry, and the agency just felt compelled to have an extra safeguard to deny people licenses that have questionable history, criminal history, bad behavior in horse racing. I think the buck starts and stops with licensing. So if someone hinders the integrity of our sport, I think that they should be able to be summarily suspended. And then the addition of horse race, we just thought we would put that in there because we're speaking about horse racing and protecting our four walls of the racetrack. Okay.
Thank you. One word, but important word.
I agree.
Any other commissioner questions for commission staff regarding the due process and disciplinary action proposed changes?
Let's be Christmas.
Thank you. Now for members of the public in the room, if you have a comment regarding the due process and disciplinary action proposed changes, please raise your hand and identify yourself and your association.
It's gone through the downs and outs. Before the record, we did have a clarification of someone's suspension pay, which was acted by director of the trail. Brother, we did have.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. Any other raised hands in the audience? Ms. Chavez, any raised hands virtually?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you. And we will proceed to Exhibit 6, which is tab C. And that is Rule 15.2.2.8 NMAC entitled Associations. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for commission staff regarding the proposed changes to that rule?
Is there a designation, Commissioner Smith? Is there any license or something that says they are adequate to diagnose a concussion? They'd have to have somebody on staff that would be able to diagnose the concussion. What kind of license do they have to do that to diagnose them?
Oh, that's certainly a good question, but I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, members of the commission. I believe these proposals were introduced by the Jockeys Guild. And because the changing of this rule on our own, we didn't feel real comfortable without getting a blessing and input from the Jockeys Guild and or on this one. So I believe that's any one of those personnel there listed, is my understanding that they can adequately diagnose or assess a concussion. But we do have some public comment in regards to that by Lucille or some part. He may be able to chime in answer that question.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I spoke to our head of EMS, Jerry Morales, who's been around the track for over 20 years. He is a licensed paramedic. Paramedics and EMTs are not licensed to diagnose. They can assess and they understand concussion protocols, but they do not diagnose. That's a physician's job or a PA. So they legally, technically cannot diagnose. Our request, our suggestion was that the word diagnose be removed and leave it with assessing. The point being that somebody should be there who knows how to identify and then deal with a concussion. And that will still get you to where you want to be.
Commissioner Sanchez here, it says here, a nurse practitioner. I think we need to add a licensed nurse practitioner, because you could have a nurse practitioner, not licensed, licensed both, whatever, it's still better. I think all those folks should be licensed. Yeah, but good point. But I think we need to do that, especially when it comes to human beings. We've got to make sure that we take care of it. Good point. But the intent would be, I would think, that they would have a license. Yeah, but I agree with them. But let's just put this, yeah. Yeah, sure.
And that was Commissioner Buffington entering his comments as well. Commissioners, any questions for commission staff regarding the association's goal?
Mr. Smith, what are we gonna do with that line, trying to diagnose, concussion? We're gonna see that in there? I think that's fine, a little bit. I think that opens the tracks and the commission to some kind of litigation.
I think the point that, Commissioner Buffington, I think the point that Fred made, assess, we can change diagnose to assess, and that would clarify that.
And honorable commissioners, regarding those types of changes, once we complete this initial portion and then get to the actual voting on the proposed rules, that's when the commission will be asked for motions. Then we'll incorporate any changes that you folks think you want. If you either address now or maybe you'll address later when we cover each individual rule for actual voting.
And the ones keeping track of that?
Yes. Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions for commission staff regarding 15.2.8 appropriation?
This is the one that had about, Commissioner Smith, this is the one that had something about a helicopter pad. We went down with it. What does I see that?
All the way to the bottom.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, that would be under number 14 in red.
So, what? Is that out in the middle of the track, or you want to build a pad, or what are we asking for there?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, members of the commission, I believe that proposal has some room for modification to a certain extent. And I think that's something that we can discuss a little later when we start slicing and dicing.
But it's gotta be a place where the ambulance can reach to too. Someplace in the middle of the track, the ambulance got to get to it. So it's gotta, we have to look at all points there.
Any other questions?
I apologize.
Have we ever picked up anybody in a helicopter at a racetrack?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, members of the commission, maybe the tracks would be best able to answer that. I know jockeys have eventually been formed to medical facilities in larger locales, but
From the hospital?
yes,
That happens quite often, but I don't think that a hospital is going to use their helicopter to come and pick this person up. And until they diagnose that you need to go to a bigger hospital, and then they'll use your helicopter for that. I don't think that works out myself. But then,
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, members of the commission, this may be a rule that's implemented in there, just in case we have a pretty darn bad accident that they need to, they're diagnosed right there at the track. They need to get them out right away.
Mr. Sanchez here, and like last year from that job who broke his leg, bone split, not hurting. They had to drive him. Travel. If you get something like that, it would come in very, very handy. But I mean, it's just, I agree with you, Commissioner, Mr. Trevel, just in case you never know. But I think that we have to have something there. And it's not expensive. I mean, to do a deal, just a strike deal, that doesn't mean building that stand. That just means a designated place where the helicopter can land, or ambulance or automobile has access. And it's very simple, it's not very expensive. No problem.
I heard someone park along the lines of what Commissioner Sanchez is saying. If we could change the word helipad to a suitable location for a helicopter to land or something more general, that would help us out. Because helipad pulls in like FAA certifications and things like that that get really complex and expensive for something that may or may not ever be used.
Yeah, I understand that, Commissioner. I understand that. Because a helipad is going to run you $250,000 to $500,000. But if you could have just a place that the pilot could recognize for the land, and that's his right, his pain, which is no big deal. That's very inexpensive, and they can land right there. Because that pilot up there doesn't know where to land. He'd be running all over the place, but if he sees a hill, a stripe on the pavement or whatever, he knows where to land. And that will save a lot of time.
Honorable Commissioners, we do have 3 hands raised virtually. Ms. Chavez?
It looks like Chris Mackerlane from Zia Park is the first one I'm going to allow in.
Thank you, Christopher Mackerlane, Penn Entertainment on behalf of Zia Park. Just a couple comments in section 8, which again, we did provide written commentary on. We would certainly, the requirement regarding the associations having 2 veterinarians. I think everyone's acutely aware of the pressure and limitations on the availability of veterinarians. And also, we see this as a partnership with the commission that from their side as well, increasing their availability of veterinarians working on the commission side to jointly work with the racetrack. So if the racetracks are being asked to increase numbers of veterinarians, we think the commission should also be looking at an increase on their side. I did want a clarification on the ambulance section 8 in subsection E. It says each ambulance must be staffed with those requirements. Again, the limitations and availability of licensed medical personnel is acute just about everywhere, specifically in Hobbs. I think many in the industry know the struggles we have from that respect. And I just want a clarification as to whether it has to be each ambulance being staffed with those individuals, or just one paramedic or intermediate emergency medical technician, nurse practitioner, or physician assistant available on the grounds for racing on that day. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chavez, can you recognize the next person with hand raised?
There's Rick's iPad.
Commissioners, Rick Ball, Ritos Downs Racetrack. A couple of issues here that I'd like to address, and to the sake of time, I concur with Mr. McErlane and his statements. In reference to the helipad, we're leaving out one main focus here, and that's FAA approval. What will they allow? Where will they allow? I know at Ruidoso Downs, we have 2 approved sites. One being at the Museum of the Horse, which is less than a block away. And then another area that the medevacs use in Ruidoso Downs and Ruidoso is adjacent to the Museum of the Horse as well. So I feel like for Ruidoso Downs, we've got that issue covered, that is their designated landing sites. The other thing that when Mr. McElane's already addressed is the veterinarians, and something that I didn't see that maybe we could at some point address is vet tech assistance on there as well, because we all know the limited accessibility to veterinarians. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Ms. Chavez, the next individual.
The next individual isn't really identified. It just says Samsung GA8.
In order to make a public comment, you will have to identify yourself, please, and your association, and then you'll have 3 minutes. Seconds left. I apologize, but your time is up. Thank you. Ms. Chavez, any additional comments?
Yes, sir. There's Mindy Lynn Coleman.
Please identify yourself, your association, and you've got 3 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mindy Coleman on behalf of the Jockeys Guild. I just wanted to respond to a couple comments with regards to the proposed language and then a follow-up. With regards to diagnosing or the word diagnose, while that may not have been necessarily, that is the term and that is the language that was being used at that time. However, when this was submitted, and it was also discussed with Mr. Trejo that HISA was in the process of changing their rules, and it was determined that we wanted to still submit the language pending the outcome and what was going to be sent by HISA to the FTC. We have been advised that HISA has sent the new proposed language, including their concussion protocols and requirements. It has not been released or published for public comment by the FTC at this point. However, that is something that does need to be taken into consideration with the changes and the requirements that may possibly come. With regards to the designation of a helipad or an area to land, while not having the specifics, it was also done with the intent. This has been something done in other jurisdictions because of the requirement or the need to have a designated area wherever that may be and whatever it may be for that racetrack's particular protocols, but so that everybody is fully aware, including security and management and anybody else that would be in communication or directing where that area would be. I think that it can be defined more loosely as been discussed in the previous comments, but it is just something that we do need to have. While I am not certain in New Mexico, I do believe there was one incident in New Mexico. I know there have been other incidents in other jurisdictions, including Indiana and Louisiana, where a jockey had to be helivac'd or medvac'd out of a racetrack. So I do, and I just wanted to follow up. Then again, we appreciate your time and the importance on making sure that we have properly staffed medical and ambulances. I understand what Mr. Mackerlane was indicating with the difficulty of getting specifically paramedics, but that was also part of this reason of going back and changing this language to include nurse practitioners and physicians, was so that it would be able to, the racetracks were not as restricted.
30 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chavez, any additional comments from the virtual audience?
Ethan Linder.
Mr. Linder, please identify yourself, your association, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, Ethan Linder, Ruidoso Downs. I just have one quick comment on E8 that hasn't been brought up to date. There's an upgrade from BLS ambulances to ALS ambulances. I know the paramedics and items like that have been discussed. Upgrading to ALS, our community doesn't have ALS ambulances in order to meet these needs. These would require the tracks to also get involved with administering medication and things like that. I would just like to put it out in front of the commission that that's a significant change to number 8, which would upgrade the tracks from BLS ambulances to ALS ambulances. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Linder. Ms. Chavez, any additional comments?
No, sir, I see no more comments.
All right, thank you. Moving to exhibit number 7, rule 15.2.3.8 NMRC entitled Flat Racing Official General Provisions. That would be tab E. Commissioners, in your books. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for Commission staff regarding the proposed changes to that rule? What section we are in? We are rule 15.2.3.8 is flat racing official general provision. Page 12.
Obviously, the racing sector is not off the races or accept entry for 2-year-olds for next year, rather than June first. That, I'd like to see that stricken completely. That would change the whole definition of New Mexico. We leave our purpose down with those other things. So, but, other about and, I'm gonna think of something else, but that's,
This Commissioner Buffington, there are also securities at Sunray and Albuquerque and other places that really might impact. So I think we need some, it's a big point and we need some modification for some work.
Commissioner Petrie, could you justify the June 1st date or the rationalization for our picking June 1st?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Petrie, commissioners, that's in our world, we use the word arbitrary. That's a very arbitrary date to be throughout the proposal. We believe it would stimulate a larger discussion that needs to be discussed. And we're fully aware that the ramifications of this date would reach on the industry, but nonetheless, a matter that based on the data that the commission's been keeping, in which you'll see a lot of 2-year-olds that suffered at our rate.
So basically, the June 1st date, we feel the horses will be more physically fit to race as of June 1st as opposed to May 1st.
They can be well matured. It depends on each individual horse. They're just like people. Some will develop a lot sooner than others. But I will say the agency has no problem discussing this topic in more detail. Another rule that's coming up, which will obviously affect this rule.
Okay. So basically what you're trying to do is find something that ensures the horse is physically fit to race as opposed to not physically fit.
Yes, sir, because I've had great discussion with stakeholders in the industry on the topic, and there's a lot of room for modification off this proposal.
Okay, very good.
Commissioner Smith, what does the H2HA look like? What is there, March 1st?
I think they have a March 1st. Someone had mentioned that of course it have to be 24 months as well, but I don't know that I saw that in writing. Nonetheless, I have seen the March 1st date.
Do we know that, right, with the H2HA?
They say that's their rules.
Is she on there?
Miss-
Yes.
Yeah.
She had her hand up.
He has her hand up.
Wait, let's go finish. Follow the process, right?
Thank you, Vice Chairman.
Anything else in questions?
Okay, all right. Let's first turn to any questions or comments from the audience regarding the specific rule dealing with flat racing officials and general provisions. Please raise your hand. Mr. Padina, please identify yourself and your association.
Steve Padina, Director of Racing at Sunray Park. I do, for the record, support the written comments from my track brethren and also support Director Smith's and Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Petrie's warnings, cautions about the date, particularly because we do have two-year-old stakes that would not, we would not be able to run that under the current June deadline. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Gondra, please.
Thank you, Tom Gottschalk, the Mexico Horse Breeders. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, we concur with Commissioner Smith's opinion on 2-year-old racing and this proper start date. As part of our submissions, we also included an article written by Dr. Larry Bramlage from Root Little Equine Hospital in Lexington, Kentucky. For those of you who may not know, he's one of the world's foremost equine surgeons, operates primarily on racehorses. So that article is very informative and based on fact and data that illustrates that 2-year-olds training and racing can improve longevity in the racing. A little bit counterintuitive, but he has the data to back it up. So I urge you to refer to that when we enter into your deliberations. And we have one more comment about another issue under Working Secretary in this section, if I may. On page 13, 15.2.3.8.c, under regarding allocations of stalls, preference has been changed from New Mexico Reds would have preference over horses of comparable quality to preference may be given to stables that are balanced and consist of New Mexico Reds. And the Breeders' Association would like some clarity and discussion as to why that rule may be implemented. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mark Brown. I'm the owner, breeder, trainer. Also, I'm in the Mexico Horse Racing Board, and I serve with the AQHA. This will, with the science you will hear about later, it has no consequences, but it does damage our industry. This will affect horses running in the races at the earlier races. It'll also affect our sales. This rule itself is detrimental to the industry, as I feel that. And as a trainer, it doesn't make any sense. If my horses are ready to run in March, I condition them right, they're going to be just as sound then. That's what it is. And so it's a trainer type decision on that needs to be looked at. The racing secretary can't make that decision. They're not out on our barns to see our horses in that. This rule, I think, is non-beneficial to everybody in the industry in that, and should be stricken and left with the dates that the AQHA people have already come up with. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from the audience members? Ms. Chavez, do we have any virtual hands raised?
Yes, sir. Miss Janet Van Bieber has been very patient.
All right. Thank you for your patience. Please identify yourselves, and you have 3 minutes.
Absolutely. I am Janet Van Bieber. I am the Chief Racing Officer of the American Quarter Horse Association. I apologize. I crafted a letter that I submitted yesterday, and that did not meet the deadlines to be in your meeting materials. So to use my 3 minutes in the best manner possible, I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you rather than present off the cuff. Honorable Commissioners, members of the AQHA Racing Committee have reached out to me regarding the proposed New Mexico Racing Commission rule change that would not afford horses the opportunity to race before June 1st of their 2-year-old year. Consequently, I am offering our association's perspective on the matter. It is my hope that after consideration of the points I will make herein, you maintain regulation that is aligned with AQHA rules, using March 1st as the date in which 2-year-old quarter horses can have their first official race. In arguing for our position on the matter, I respectfully submit the following. My first premise is based on science. In 2021, a study conducted by UC Davis's Dr. Sue Stover, a noted specialist in equine anatomy, the research concludes that horses which enter race training at 2 years of age are in fact found to have greater earnings and longer race careers. In addition, this study sought to determine that relationships between the age at first and the, In addition, this sought to determine the relationship between the age at first start and the risk of retirement. An inverse association between the age at first start and the length of racing career was found, with no supporting evidence that racing a 2-year-old of age increases the risk of retirement from racing. Although the study that is referenced was done using thoroughbreds, one could argue that quarter horses are precocious by comparison and are not asked to race the distances their thoroughbred counterparts, thereby less vulnerable to injury than those used in the research. I have provided a link to the full article in the meeting materials that I sent Izzy. As a longtime horseman myself, the findings of this study come as no surprise to me. After all, science tells us that repetitive stress on bones leads to enhanced remodeling, thereby actually creating a stronger structure for a 2-year-old. Secondly, I think one should contemplate the potential for unintended consequences if this rule were implemented. The regulation, that's my 3 minutes?
30 seconds.
Oh, sorry. Okay. My unintended consequences is that I'm afraid that horses would turn to match racing and that you would see a greater risk for catastrophic loss when they came to regulated racing. We saw that happen in another jurisdiction, and I detailed it in the letter. Lastly, we at AQHA endorse uniformity amongst racing jurisdictions, and we'd like to see you have the same rules as your neighboring states in order for you to not see a mass exodus of horsemen from your tracks early in the year.
And your time is up. My apologies.
No worries.
Thank you. Ms. Chavez, any additional comments from our virtual audience?
Yes, sir. Rick's iPad.
If you could please identify yourself, your association, and then you have 3 minutes.
Commissioners, Rick Ball, Ritos Downs Racetrack. I concur with every statement made in regards to the 2-year-old product that we're discussing. Ms. Van Beber and myself had a conversation yesterday in regards to her letter that she just read to you guys. This is accountability that we need to apply to our trainers and with the veterinarians that we are looking at the horses now. But it's got to be a constant, and I'm sure that we can address this further in the rules as we go along today. But this would be devastating to the Triple Crown, and it's something that it's a non-starter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bob. Ms. Chavez, any other virtual hands?
Ethan Linder.
Mr. Linder?
Hello, Ethan Linder from Ritos Downs. I just have 2 quick comments. Under section O, racing veterinarians, we respectfully request that on number 2, that we attempt to add veterinarian technicians in addition to veterinarians available for live racing days to allow us to help further staff up our racetracks. Again, that was 02. They're asking for 2 veterinarians. We're asking to include the opportunity to potentially add veterinarian technicians to that staffing opportunity. And then in that same section, OC1, there's a question concerning number of days on the calendar that must elapse before an unsound or lame horse is returned to the track. We are asking that the current level of 7 calendar days be upgraded to 10. And that's our only comments.
Thank you, Mr. Linder. And any other virtual hands, Ms. Chavez?
Samsung A8.
Right. Please identify yourself, your association, and you have 3 minutes. Ma'am, your comments need to be referring to the rule at issue. Ma'am, you're not going to run this meeting. Not person, please cut her off. Unless you get to the rule of issue. And we're not arguing with you either. Again, everybody, all comments need to be on the rule at table, not commenting about judicial actions or things of that nature, with all due respect. So, Ms. Chavez, any additional virtual hands?
There are no more hands raised, sir.
All right, I thank everybody for their cooperation, and now we'll move to Exhibit 8. Oh, I apologize.
Public comment on.
Yes.
Yes, Scott Cook with the Downs of Albuquerque, referring to rule 6-2. And the Downs of Albuquerque is not opposed to the additional 2 veterinarians. We are opposed to the picking up the cost. I believe that the Medical Race Commission is asking for more money in their budget to address the veterinary situation. This was also addressed 2 and 3. So we are the Downs Albuquerque opposed to picking up those costs, and we'd like to see where those costs can be picked up either by the Race Commission through their budget designated for additional veterinarians. So that's our comment and stance on that.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Members of the commission. Dan Rubin here, Attorney General's office. Thanks for having me appear. I do have a concern. The last comment by Miss Alexander, it was at least tangentially related to the specific rule at issue, specifically veterinarians and the standards for veterinarians. If we could give her 3 minutes, I think that would be in keeping with the spirit of the rules. I'm not sure she had the 3 minutes. With all respect to Mr. Bustamante, if you could allow her to finish her 3 minutes, please.
She mentions.
Hold on a minute, please.
Well, the thing is, she went and talked about stewards aren't recognized that they were, that's half million meeting a week. It has to be in the parameters of this rule, bottom line, and stewards were not in the parameters of the rule.
All right. Ms. Alexander, again, with all due respect, please limit your comments to the matters at the rule at hand, and therefore comments about stewards not being rope certified are inappropriate. So please proceed.
Read off the rule.
Yes, the rule is dealing with flat racing officials, general provisions, and it's on page 12 of the material.
You already went to minutes.
And substitute storage. So, and Mr. Rubin, please feel free to step in if you feel the comments have strayed to inappropriate matters. Please proceed, Ms. Alexander. Ms. Chavez, any other virtual hands?
Yes, sir. Miss Candy Izell.
Mrs. L, please identify yourself, your association, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I am Candy Ezell. I am a horse owner. I am looking here at all the statutes and everything, and it says the eligibility for the applicants to be a steward, they have to be accredited.
Mrs. L, if you could turn your speaker down, we're getting a bad echo, please.
Sure. Let me see if I can do it. Is that any better?
No. Are you logged in twice, Mrs. L?
I have 2 computers going at the same time.
That's probably why you might want to mute one completely.
Let's try it now, Mrs. L.
Oops, she muted this wrong.
Okay. I'm gonna just shut this one down. Hold on.
Big echo.
According to what statute says, the racing officials have to go through an accreditation program and be current with continuing education requirements. Is that true for what all, hold on. Is that true for all stewards that have been operating in the state of New Mexico?
These are time for your comments, Mrs. L.
I have spoken. I need a question answered. Stewards must be accredited by the Racing Officials Accreditation Program and be current with continuing education requirements. Is that true of all the stewards that are in New Mexico?
Members of the commission, you certainly, it would be generally inappropriate for the commission to answer questions at this time. If Ms. Izell, however, is asking a question, I believe, of staff, and the members of the public are entitled to ask questions of staff. So if the staff has a response for this individual, now would be an appropriate time to offer it.
And that was Assistant Attorney General Dan Rubin.
Yes, Representative Gazelle, your question, yes, our stewards are accredited. Statute says they must be certified or licensed by a national racing organization. We're adhering to that wholeheartedly. I hope that answers your question.
Mr. Rubin, thank you. Mr. Trejo, I don't think that is the case. In the past, it has not been the case. If you're going to have rules, you have to follow them just like everybody else is supposed to. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Bell. Any additional virtual hands, Ms. Chavez?
I see no other hands raised, sir.
All right, thank you. Honorable Commissioners, we'll move to the next rule, Exhibit 8, 15.2.4.8, NMAT, titled Claiming Races. That is page 16 on the materials. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for Commission staff regarding the proposed changes to claiming racing rules?
Commissioner Buffington, do we have a uniform claim form used by all the tracks, or is it different?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Buffington, members of the commission, the tracks should have their own entities, so they have their own claim slips that they create, and it's going to be my guess that there may be some differentiation amongst them. So
okay.
What, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Well, on number 7, they probably should put that on the claim blank. They're new claim by, don't you think?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, Commissioners, if there's room, as you just know, clean black planks are fairly small, in a small envelope. But, that's something the tracks could easily just post by the claim box, instead of printing it on their claim slips. Easy to-
Mr. Smith, on page 18, number 8. So the person claims the horse can ask the trainer, the veterinarian that horse to turn over his record for the last 60 days. The new trainer can get records for the last 60 days. And that's opening up things for lawsuits between the two.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, members of the commission, I can't answer the question as far as lawsuit, people sue for little things, so I would say in our industry, that's good possibility.
I think it makes sense. This is Commissioner Buffington. I think it makes sense to transfer those license to the community owner and perhaps a new vet on starting from scratch.
Is that the way from we get out of the claim, get the horse back?
Well, doesn't say anything about that. So I'd say no, and defer to.
I'd agree with that answer. It doesn't give a way to get out. The industry's continuously changing. This is just one facet. I'm a brethren of buyer beware, claim the horse. Good horsemen used to clock the horses in the morning. They knew what they're getting when they claimed the horse.
Yeah.
Today's trainers, I can't say that for all of them, that they just don't drop the claim blank based on paper. Past performances, they're not looking at the horse. There's a real scouting report on the horse, so to speak.
Commissioner Petrie, when we say advise, doesn't make it mandatory. It's just a suggestion that it should be done. Are we trying to make sure it happens? Or that there's the potential it should happen, and if it doesn't, there's no consequences?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Petrie, members of the commission, that's a word that can be modified to this rule. We could make it mandatory. It implies it's rather soft.
Perhaps just defined in his suggestion. Thank you.
That means it doesn't have to happen until law.
Any other questions, commissioners, or commission staff on that rule? We have a request to take a comfort break, so why don't we'll take a 10-minute break, please. Just let everybody else know we'll also be breaking at 11:30 for lunch. So thank you, folks.
If I'm not back, just close the front door to worry about blocking.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah. Commissioners, are we ready to recommence? Okay. We are back in the record after a short break, and this is Richard Bustamante, the presiding officer for this hearing, and now we're proceeding to, I think it's Exhibit 9. And that is 15.2.5.8 NMAC entitled Entries and Nominations, and that is on page 19. Oh,
Tab G.
Tab G. For the record, I will advise everybody in the audience and virtually that each commissioner has been provided a copy of all of the written comments that have been introduced by people, and I just want to make that clear for the record. Getting back to Exhibit 9, 15.2.5.8 NMAC and entries and nominations. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for Commission staff regarding the proposals under that rule?
Commissioner Smith, what was the reason to take secretary out and put office? What was that accomplished?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, members of the commission, the purpose for that was, as the rule reads, entries and nominations shall be made with the racing secretary and shall not be considered until received by the racing secretary. As we know, the ins and outs of racing offices, entry clerks take those entries. Those entries are actually given to entry clerks who are part of the racing office, not specifically the racing secretary.
Okay. So all of this stuff you're just cleaning up. Yeah, that's all it is. You're just cleaning up. It's not a major change.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, the commissioners, the agencies have a lot of proposed rule changes in our back pocket for over a year. We went through and we're doing a lot of housekeeping with a lot of these rules. And then, of course, some of the rules are because of ever-changing times and more tricky here in New Mexico across the country.
I think in this case, I think in this case, it clarifies what should have and has been happening, just clarifying the take away of vagueness.
That's yes, I agree. I agree. You know, having worked in the racing office for many, many years, and it's a tricky place. A lot of things can get done there. So there's always got to be a watchful eye over those that faction of the racetrack. It's really important that there's rules that these people have to abide by.
Any questions?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes. And now let's hear comments from the audience regarding Exhibit 9, Rule 15.2.5.8, entries and nominations. Any comments from the folks here joining us in person?
Fred Heinrich, Sunland Park, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Mr. Bustamante, your comment about our written comments being provided to the commissioner, there's a lot of comments in here on these specifics that I don't really want to go through again because I think it just prolongs this. For example, Commissioner Petrie's question about the word, the last meeting, I forget the word now, but I implies, I had also commented on that and suggested a change to the word signifies to make it clearer about what's expected. Are those comments going to at some point get considered by the commissioners?
Yes, we're looking at them.
Okay, wonderful.
Right. When we vote on them, we're gonna look at all those comments.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And at that point, that is when the commission will deliberate regarding changes to the proposals, adopting in full, adopting in part, adopting the changes tabled.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other?
Long process.
Yes, Mr. Padunak.
Steve Padunak, Director of Racing with Sunray Park. For the record, I just wanted to say that our staff has looked over Mr. Heinrich and Mr. McCurlate's comments, and we just wanted to let you know that we do wholeheartedly enjoy them and support what they were saying on their comments, just for the record.
Okay. Any other in-person comments? Ms. Chavez, do we have a virtual hand raised regarding a comment on entries and nominations, Exhibit 9?
There is one hand raised, sir, and it's Leslie.
Ma'am, if you can please identify yourself for the record, your association, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Leslie Fincher. I've been in racing for probably since some of you were born, 50 some years plus. I think it's an atrocious, outrageous scam you all are pulling. You 5 commissioners by state law, or 3 of you are supposed to be active.
Ma'am, again, Ms. Fincher, with all due respect, your comment needs to be specific to Rule 15.2.5.8, entries or nominations. So if you have any specific comments on the proposal.
I do have comments.
Well,
you just have to let me have my 3 minutes to get them all out.
Please proceed to your specific comments regarding the rule.
Including myself, had any notification, and I'm on the mailing list, the email list, and I have no email of this meeting. All the people on this list are all track managements or.
Again, that's not in reference to the rule at hand.
Yes, it is, because you're not getting a full response from the horsemen. You have expunged them from existence. That applies to every rule you got in front of you, which you all don't even have them all, let alone the horsemen have them to review and to comment. I think it's ridiculous that you carry on.
All right, thank you. Thank you. You ended your comment. Any other virtual hands, Ms. Chavez?
That's all the hands I see, sir.
All right, thank you. And now we'll proceed to Exhibit 10, 15.2.5.9 NMAC entitled Declaration of Scratches. That's tab H, page 20. And commissioners, any questions for commission staff regarding 15.2.5.9?
Commissioner Smith, after we go through all these individually, like we're doing now, then we got to go back and tie every one of them to the public comments. Is that right? I mean, go through what they didn't like and tell them. In other words, what it's going to do is work twice. Wouldn't it be easier for them to stand up when they have a comment and tell us instead of it's going to be impossible to go through all this and go all the way back. We'll be here till midnight doing that.
And I understand the frustration of Commissioner Smith, and unfortunately, the process we have to follow essentially is one that basically is required for rural hearings. So essentially, we do have to go through this first step, and then thereafter, the commission will consider each rule in terms of adopt adopt in full, reject in full, or adopt with modifications. So, and that is when basically the commissioners can consider whether any of the written comments and oral comments might impact changes you want to make to the rule. So I know it's a lengthy process, sir.
It'd be easier for you to stand up and tell us.
All right. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. Any other commissioner questions for commission staff regarding declaration and scratches? All right. And for the audience here in the room, any comments on declaration and scratches, please raise your hand. All right. Ms. Travis, do we have any virtual hands raised for comments, again, specifically related to declaration and scratches, Exhibit 10?
I see no hands raised.
All right, thank you. Moving forward, commissioners, now we're dealing with Exhibit 11, tab I, page 21, and that is Rule 15.2.5.12, NMAC, horses ineligible. Honorable commissioners, any questions for commission staff regarding that exhibit?
We do have on Commissioner Buffington, we do have on page 25, we have reference to the June 1st date. Oh, excuse me, I skipped ahead. I'm sorry. I have no comments on that section.
Thank you, Commissioner Buffington.
You can anticipate one.
And then once we get done with this, then your staff is going to renumber them or they go up. Because if we have to renumber these things, we're going crazy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we're going through the cumbersome portion of this process. And the next process, we adjust or modify the proposal to the way you want to tailor them. And you should be able to do that pretty quick. We'll do all the noting and all that, right?
We have to do that from the year till the day after dawn.
That way, commissioners, you can focus on the actual merits of proposed changes. Let's turn to public comment. Anybody in the audience would like to comment on 15.2.5.12 horses ineligible? Ms. Chavez, do we have any virtual hands raised for comments specific to horses ineligible?
There are 2 hands raised, sir.
All right. If you could please identify yourself, your association, and then you'll have 3 minutes, please.
My name is Vanessa Alexander. I'm looking at this, and you're going to have to forgive me for laughing, but in 2021, I brought this commission a bucket load, and I have continued to show where we have a massive licensing fraud issue. I have provided this commission with unequivocal proof of
Alexander,
program
that's
ownership.
not relevant to
Excuse me,
discussion
Mr.
of-
Bustamante. I am reading from the red part right here where it says right here, somebody is, excuse me, wholly or partially owned by a disqualified person or a horse under the direct care, indirect training, or management of a disqualified person. Now, please stop interrupting me. Now, I know you are aware of some of the things that have been said in the depositions recently, which would include your own investigator, Lisa Johnson, admitting that the Sanchez brothers have been allowed to race illegally and commit extortion and other crimes under...
Mr. Rubin, is this allowed, Mr. Rubin?
Mr. Bustamante, what are you afraid of, sir? It was
Miss
said...
Miss Alexander, please. Mr. Bustamante has asked me a question.
Go ahead.
And so I believe Miss Alexander is speaking to the issues that relate to horse ineligibility. She will have 3 minutes and no more than 3 minutes. And if she wanted to be more elaborate or verbose, she should have submitted written comments, but we should allow her to speak her piece about how she feels about how horses are ineligible or eligible based upon the disqualification of the management of that horse. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I didn't submit written comment because of the dozens and dozens and dozens of requests of investigations, evidenced requests that I have provided to this commission, proving the fraud, extortion, racketeering, and of course the program ownership and program training. This commission has done nothing. Mr. Bustamante, I asked you about internal emails involving Diamond Racing and Julieta Torres, and you tell me that there is not one single email, one piece of correspondence from after I supplied you with the marriage certificate in 2021, which is hard to believe. So it again behooves you to understand that you are not capable of enforcing these rules. So what is the point of all of this? Especially if you're just going to cut people off and in my case, retaliate against them. And again, what has been learned in depositions, I would suggest that you perhaps question your own investigator who swore under oath that she notified 2 attorney generals and the last 3 directors, specifically about the Sanchez brothers being allowed to race and assisted by the New Mexico Racing Commission. That's the end of my comment. Thank you, Mr. Rubin.
Ms. Chavez, any other virtual hands?
Yes, sir. Candy Izell.
Ms. Izell, please identify yourself, your association. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I am Candy Ezell. I am a horse owner. I agree with Miss Alexander. If we are not going to do something about the paper trainers, it's going to continue and it's going to be detrimental to the sport itself. One change I do see that needs to be addressed. Right now, horses are being tattooed, but with that change coming up with the babies being born in 2024 with the chip, that needs to be updated, in my opinion. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Izell. Ms. Chavez, any other virtual hands?
There's one hand, Janet Van Beber.
Ms. Van Beber, please introduce yourself, your association, in 3 minutes.
Hi, just real quick on what Mrs. L said just now. The quarter horse rule regarding use of a microchip as part of the process to verify the identity of a racehorse is not by full crop year, but instead will start with horses previously unidentified, effective January 1, 2024. So you could have a 3-year-old present that's not ever been tattooed, and at that point forward, it will be microchipped. And microchip will use our application, QH chip, that our AQHA identifiers will use for the microchip process. And if you need additional verbiage, we sent out verbiage to all regulators back in April of this year to make sure everybody was on board. But I'm happy to collaborate with Izzy and his staff to do anything that you need moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Beaver. Any additional virtual hands?
The recording has stopped.
Sorry.
This meeting is being recorded.
I see no more hands raised.
All right, thank you, Ms. Shadid. Honorable Commissioners, we'll proceed to Exhibit 12, Rule 15.2.5.13, NMAC, entitled Running of the Race. That's tab J, page 23. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for Commission staff regarding running of the race?
It's Commissioner Buffington, and just a reminder on page 25, depending on what happens, we need to do something with that.
Which one was this?
25 on DC, we do the one stretched out June 1st date, so depending on what the 2-year-old running dates is on there, it's on this one. Oh, yeah. So just a reminder, we'll clean that up.
Thank you, Commissioner Buffington.
Smith, on this excessive use of crop includes the rider cannot use riding crop more than 3 times in succession during a race, excluding showing or waving the crop. Now, is that covered in HISA as well, right?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, members of the commission, no, the HISA has a 6-strike limit rule. What we're doing here is memorializing an internal policy that has been imposed on the jockeys from the stewards that are racetracks. Because it's been challenged in court, we felt compelled to memorialize it in a rule. And we don't want to go to the 6-strike rule. We tried to keep that out of New Mexico. We tried to keep any whip rule out of New Mexico. But jockeys have challenged it, and they say they're confused on the policy. Now we're putting it in rules so they can be loud and clear.
Commissioner Sanchez, it's go for both quarter horses or thoroughbreds?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, unfortunately, this is going to be merely for quarter horses because HISA has the covered race and covered with their strict right limit rule.
I just want to make sure that's
And I have to give the jockeys credit, they pretty much adhere to this. It keeps the perception of abuse on the horses curtailed to the most part.
The rider cannot use the riding crop more than 3 times in succession during a race, excluding showing and waving. So they can hit him, strike him 3 times, and then wait a little bit, and then strike him 3 times again.
Yes, Chairman, Commissioner Smith, members of the commission, it means jock will whip 3 times, and typically the time to respond is 2 strides, and then he can whip 3 more times, a couple more strides. Okay. It's taken away the match race version of this, where the jockey repeatedly hits the horse 36 times throughout the race.
Yeah.
200 yards.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Audience members, any comments regarding 15.2.513 running of the race? Please raise your hands. Yes, sir.
Mark Brown,
owner, trainer, and everything. I concur with Commissioner Cummings on the rule of changing the June back to March 22-year-olds. Sort of the, sometimes they need it now. And as far as the week, you go 3 times, let them run and go. I think that's a very good rule of that. Makes them ride their horses. Back when I rode, that's what they taught us how to do that. But I think that's a good rule. They have to respond. And that's getting to where it's pretty much standard when you end up going where you go with 4 horses.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any other audience comments? Travis, any virtual hands raised regarding running of the race floor?
Yes, sir. Miss Mindy Coleman.
Ms. Coleman, please identify yourself, your association, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, Commissioners. Mindy Coleman on behalf of the Jockeys Guild. I am just making a comment with regards to paragraph E, 9B, where your proposed rule says in a position with the crop at or below the shoulder level of the jockey. With regards to that, and this is something that we have dealt with in the past, we have respectfully requested and was approved by HISA that the jockey may or is permitted to have their wrist at the jockey's helmet. It sounds like just a minor variation, but that's actually a big difference in riding styles and the way the riders are able to utilize their riding crop. Where the shoulder level came from was from Canada and European jockeys. When that has been done, or going back and reviewing their style of riding versus the way we ride in the US, we ride down lower and closer to the horse. So when the jockeys are raising their wrist to helmet level, it is actually still lower than to the shoulder level. This is something that we have, like I said, has been approved in other jurisdictions, and there has not been the restriction to the shoulder level. So we would respectfully request that you guys consider just that restriction of being only permitted to the shoulder level. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Any other virtual hands? Ms. Chavez.
No, sir, I see no other hands.
All right, thank you. Honorable Commissioners, we'll proceed to page 28 in your materials, tab K, and that is Exhibit 15 with 15.2, 5.14 NMAC. Protests, objections, and inquiries. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for Commission staff?
Anything, Commissioners?
All right, okay. Members of the audience, anyone have a comment about protests, objections, and inquiries, proposed rule changes? Ms. Chavez, any virtual hands for protests, objections, and inquiries, comments?
Yes, sir. Miss Candy Izell.
Mrs. L, you know the drill. Please proceed. You have 3 minutes.
Candy Ezell, State Representative at this point. Just a clarification, if protest has to be accompanied by a fee in the amount of $500, if the protest has been deemed unacceptable, what happens to that money? And that is a question. I'd like clarification on it because I've been reading it. Let's see. all it says is established by probable cause for the protest. So I'm kind of curious, where does that money go? Does it go back into the testing fund? Does it go straight to the commission? I'm curious.
Representative Azell, when you mentioned the $500, do you have the specific rule that is contained in? Because it does not appear to be contained in the rule on the table.
Okay, it's 15.2.5.14 D under protest.
What? We're not addressing that rule.
Okay, well, maybe somebody could get back with me later on, because I would be real curious to see where that money is being put. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Azell. And Ms. Chavez, any other virtual hands for protest objections and inquiry rule?
No, sir.
All right. Honorable Commissioners, we're proceeding to tab 11, page 29. This is exhibit 14, rule 15.2.6.8 NMAC, veterinary practices. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for Commission staff regarding the proposal to that rule?
What's tab of that?
That is tab L, page 29, Commissioner Branch.
I know you haven't said that, but that was basically understood in the first place, wasn't it? I mean, you're just putting it in writing. That's pretty good standard for veterinarians to know that, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Yes, this is once again memorializing some of the things that go on at the racetrack that have long, but not rules.
Members of the audience, any comments regarding veterinary practices 15.2.6.8? Sir?
Yes, Mark Brown again. What I have is more of a question and clarification. Who is determined, the rates to determine the rates of medication? There are certain types of injuries such as abscess in a horse. That one of the therapies to get them over the profit is you give them butyramine and go out and exercise it, and it helps heal that deal, sore shins and that, and you're giving them therapeutic drugs so that you can exercise, and that's for the health of the horse. But who's to say somebody is going to say that that's detrimental because we have to do it exercise? It's just a question as far as horsemanship and who determines what determined is or detrimental to the horse's health.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, in reference to Mr. Brown's question, we would lean on the expertise of our regulatory veterinarians.
Any other in-person questions or comments? Ms. Chavez, any virtual hands raised for comments on 15.1?
Yes, sir. Candy Azell.
Representative Azell, please proceed.
Thank you very much. This is Candy Ezell, State Representative. As you know, it was passed into statute, which sometimes gets overlooked. But I do want to reiterate that the laws are governed by ARCI rules. Are we satisfactorily sure that the veterinarians know what changes have been made through ARCI in regard to the uniform classification guidelines as far as class 1 and class 2 drugs are, and then class 3? Are we making sure that these veterinarians are educated in what is allowed, what is not allowed, and the tolerance levels? And to me, that's very important because y'all do have to operate under the guidelines of ARCI.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, representative is out. You know, our rules are very clear in which licensees are subject to be very well aware of our rules, and that includes the ARCI recommended penalties, uniform classification of drugs, which is all spelled out in there. So if they read the rule book, it's right there.
Okay, I just want to make sure of that because sometimes that's kind of a gray area as far as things that are being used. Whenever veterinarians, I know that sometimes, especially at one particular track a year or so ago, that there was one veterinarian that was in charge of administering Lasix prior to racing, but there was no follow-up. And I had a problem with that. I mean, if they are going to be injecting my horse, I want my veterinarian to be able to do that, but that was not the case in this particular instance. There was no follow-up by this particular veterinarian that did administer Lasix. And there were other people that had the same issue brought forward as well. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Ms. Sanchez, any additional virtual hands? Sanchez. Chavez, my apologies.
No, sir, there are no more hands raised.
All right, okay, thank you, Ms. Chavez. Honorable Commissioners, we proceed to tab M, page 30. And that is Exhibit 15, Rule 15.2.6.9 NMAC, medications and prohibited substances. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for Commission staff regarding those proposed changes?
Commissioner Buffington on page 32, number 7. Changes. There was a slight change. Goes on race day. Does that mean the day that horse is racing? Or is that day racing is running?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Buffington, members of the commission. The reasoning for this rule is once again the agency faced litigation in regards to this rule, in which there was an argument as to the way the rule was written that Logan Council felt that you couldn't use the nebulizer on the day the horse was entered at the racing office to run 7 days later. As absurd as that sounds, we felt let's just clarify it so they can't misinterpret it.
Well, I think you want to clarify, I'm sorry, Commissioner Petrie, I think we're looking to clarify not on a race day, any race day, on the day the horse is to race.
Enter to race.
Yeah, we'll discuss that.
That is correct.
Any comments from our audience members here regarding medications and prohibited substances rules? Travis, any virtual hands raised for comments on medications and prohibited substances?
No, sir, I see no hands raised.
Thank you, Ms. Travis. Proceeding to tab N, page 34, Commissioner. And this is regarding Exhibit 16, 15.2.6.10 NMAC, entitled Testing. Any questions, Honorable Commissioners, for Commission staff?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, as you recall, we did have an issue with that topic. I know some tracks want to utilize the use of technologies such as cameras, and that may be okay, but our fear is that cameras can testify when it comes to litigation.
Washington, it's just a clarification of an expectation that is existing.
That is correct.
Any comments from the audience here in person on the testing? Ms. Chavez, any virtual hands raised for comments on 15.2.6.10 testing?
I see no hands raised.
All right. Honorable Commissioners, we're proceeding tab O, page 35, and this is exhibit 17. Rule 15.2.6.12 NMAC, physical inspection of horses. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for Commission staff regarding the proposed changes to that rule?
Number 2, pursuant to rule and on his veterinarian's list. So now we're kind of close to that as well. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, Commissioners, I'll explain the reasoning for this rule is because in our jurisdiction, we run 870-yard races. So if a horse is on his vet's list, theoretically, it can run in an 870 or 1,000-yard. And we felt that was the agency of liability or the industry of liability by letting horses shouldn't run into these 870 uncolored races and potentially break down. So it's a safeguard. For a horse on the vet's list, so we don't want to allow it to run in uncovered races. That's why we have it together. Yes, there's significant loophole in liability.
Audience members, any comments regarding physical inspection of horses? Yes, sir.
Mark Brown again, and I have a question that, it's not really the rules, you're changing them. But I was in VA here a couple of weeks ago, and I went to the test one, unfortunately. The horse was in there with me, and that came off the track, was okay. By the time they had washed the horse off, he could hardly walk. I seen another horse the race after that, they could walk down the back barn. Are your test barn veterinarians adding those horses to the vet list that they see at the test barn?
Yes, Mr. Brown, if the vet sees that a horse pulls up lane, the horse can go on the vet's list. I'm not going to say they have to, it all depends on the diagnosis.
I just wanted, the test barn is good, like I say, very obvious on those horses. I just want those horses to be put on the vet's list also.
I'm going to assume so, because horses that are bleeding in the test barn as well, they're going to be this way. But I don't see anything different than what's playing in the test barn. Veterinarian should pick up on it and the horse on the leg.
Ms. Chavez, do we have any virtual hands raised for comments on physical inspection of horses?
I see no hands raised.
Thank you, Ms. Chavez. Honorable Commissioner, proceeding to tab P, page 37. This is exhibit 18, rule 15.2.7.10 NMAC, simulcast wagering. Commissioners, any questions for commission staff regarding those proposals? Any questions or any comments from the audience regarding simulcast wagering 15.2.7.10? Ms. Lawler.
So you will decide who the representative of the horseman's group will be.
Yes. The Chairman, Commissioners, Ms. Barber, that's a $1 million question. Answer your question.
Will it be somebody the racetrack decides to choose, or will it be commission will decide who those people are?
All I can address to that is, the commission's role in the exporting of signals, and we approve it and send our individual letter. The racetracks will deal with the horsemen and the, who they get the letter from to approve the exporting.
In Commissioner Smith, it says the representative of the horsemen's group as defined in the Interstate Horse Racing Act, which there was a suit out there, and that's the judge's decision. The representative of the horsemen's group as defined in the Interstate Horse Racing Act. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. Commissioner Smith, did you add on to that, definitions in the Interstate Horse Racing Act, and find the horsemen's group as the group that represents the majority of the horsemen participating at that race meet.
On that day.
Okay.
And those were comments from Mary Barber with the New Mexico Breeders Association, Brad Heinrich with Sunland Park. Any virtual hands, Ms. Chavez, for comments on the simulcast wagering?
Yes, sir. It looks like Vanessa Alexander.
Ms. Alexander, please identify yourself, and you've got 3 minutes to comment on simulcast wagering rule.
Vanessa Alexander. If you don't mind, Mr. Bustamante, just so we're clear, I'm going to read this. It's in bright red. It's in number 1, person attempting to conduct wagering on the results of simulcast. We've crossed out the New Mexico Horsemen's Association and replaced it with a representative of the Horsemen's Group as defined in the Interstate Horse Racing Act. And the agreement is filed with the commission. Now, the definition of a horseman's group, and of course we saw this and continue to see this playing out in the courts as far as a horseman's group versus a horseman's association, what have you. We have a state racing agency which has basically annihilated the only advocate and the only horseman's group for the state of New Mexico that's been in existence for over half a century. And what we have now are the tracks hand-picking some of their yes men and quote-unquote declaring them a horseman's group. They have no memberships. They have no bylaws. They do not answer to anybody. They don't answer their phones. They do not advocate for the horsemen. They are puppets. And this issue with simulcast wagering is extremely important. I think this is extremely disingenuous. I do absolutely believe that eventually it will be determined that this is running afoul of federal law. But I have a hard time seeing how you, the commission, can conduct a meet or allow a meet to be conducted, and how you're going to be able to enforce this rule the way it's written when we don't have a horseman's group. If you care to define a horseman's group that is going to have a membership and bylaws and subject to voting for members and a board by horsemen, then I think maybe you would be making progress. But then again, you're continuing just to chase your tail because we have a horsemen's association. And that needs to be reinstated. That's pretty much all I've got to say.
Thank you. Ms. Chavez, any additional virtual hands?
Candy Zell has raised her hand.
Representative Zell?
Thank you very much. This is Candy Zell, and I've got my legislative hat on right now. And I am going along the same lines as Miss Alexander because this agreement has to be approved by the New Mexico Horsemen's Association. I'm reading that right out of statute. And it has to be filed with the commission. Well, since the commission decided to disregard, not recognize the New Mexico Horsemen's Association, I have a big problem with this because that is not under the domain of the New Mexico Racing Commission to get this done. It is not under the control of each individual track to get this done. And I have a problem with laws being totally disregarded. I mean, speed limits are not suggestions, okay? And what y'all are proposing here to do is to once again just totally bypass it and make it where it fits with your realm. I just have a problem with this. An agreement has been executed between the host and guest track operator. The agreement has been approved by the New Mexico Horsemen's Association, and the agreement is filed with the commission. To me, that's very clear, and I think that the Attorney General's office might agree with me as well. Thank you very much. I don't need a response.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, just wanted Izzy Trejo, I just wanted to get it on the record that this modification to this rule was advised by our legal counsel and Mr. Eric Woman, representing us on several fronts. And it does, you have to remember that our state statutes do not trump the federal law, which is the Interstate Horse Racing Act, in which this modification is perfectly in line with.
Ms. Chavez, any additional virtual hands?
No, sir, I see no more hands raised.
Honorable Commissioners, now we're proceeding to tab Q, page 38. This is exhibit 19, 16.47.1.8 NMAC, entitled General Provision. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for Commission staff regarding the proposals therein? Members of the public, any in the room, any comments regarding 16.47.1.8 general provision? Ms. Chavez, do we have virtual hands raised for comments specific to 16.47.1.8 general provision?
Miss Alexander has her hand raised.
Ms. Alexander, please proceed.
Thank you, Richard. Now, the general provisions here for the commission to license somebody, I actually do want to kind of give you some kudos on this. I challenge each and every one of you commissioners to read the requests for investigations, evidenced requests for investigations, and other information that I've sent to Mr. Trejo and Mr. Bustamante beginning in 2021 involving the licensing fraud that has been taking place. The issue that I have that I've already voiced is the commission's complete refusal to do anything, to take any meaningful action about these licenses, about the way that the commission had been allowing licenses to be procured. And I just, again, don't see how you are fixing any issues by simply rewording something that you have no intention of enforcing whatsoever. Again, bear with me, Richard, but we're going back to talking about, okay, well, what is the legal opinion of this? And you're relying on information from Mr. Lohman, who, as we all is aware, Sam Bregman's law partner. If you guys want to go back to the 2010 era when Sam Bregman lost the 6 racing license with La Mesa Racetrack or horse racing at Raton or whatever you want to call it, and how that ended up. Mr. Bregman, since 2005 and current, has been the registered agent, representative, and attorney for horse racing at Raton. And when you talk about a conflict of interest for the 6 racing license, you don't have a bigger one. And when you are relying on your so-called legal advice from Mr. Bregman's partner, who was involved in the multiple litigation that Mr. Bregman and Mr. Lohman lost in regards to their misdeeds and how they lost that 6th license, you are setting yourselves up again. And until you are going to fix the problems that exist now, and until you have the spinal fortitude to accept my challenge to look at the documentation that I've been sending this commission for 2 years.
30 seconds.
What I have been trying to prove to you has been going on. You are not going to make any meaningful effect at all, except continue to embarrass yourselves.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Ms. Chavez, any other virtual hands raised?
I see no other hands.
All right, okay. Commissioners, proceeding to tab R, page 39. And this is basically exhibit 20, rule 16.47.1.10 NMAC, trainers. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for Commission staff regarding the proposed changes therein?
Commissioner Smith. Okay. I look at this and I agree with you 100%. We have avenue to get a training license. This strengthens us pretty much. Can you kind of go over what this has done, what kind of time and what are you expecting before you hand out a license?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, members of the commission, this rule is very important to this agency, and it's fight against paper training. As I mentioned earlier, the initial licensing is what about to stop. So we are making it a little more difficult to obtain a trainer's license. When we get back to what's occurred here in New Mexico over my 7 years with paper trainers, lack of horsemanship, I think that's a root cause of a lot of the other issues that we've experienced here in this industry. I think the game is not going in the right direction from a personnel standpoint, and a lot of occupational positions. But with trainers, it's scary because these people don't know how to take care of horses. There are people that match race for a couple of years and want to get a trainer's license, and that poses a lot of problems in the long run in our industry. They don't have horsemanship that guys used to have in the old days. So we feel compelled to propose these rules. Hopefully they'll pass. And it's a way to combat the paper training issue, because the other way to subpoena documents and get through financial records is very, very difficult and time consuming. And with being limited to 3 investigators, we felt this is a good way to stop it, is to not let them in. And we've had a handful of people that have had trainer's license and have done very well here in New Mexico that have since been mandated to retake the trainer's test. I believe we have a couple people that have failed the leading trainers failed the trainer's test 3 times. So it shows what we're dealing with on our ranks of the trainers. Not everyone's where we think they should be as part of horsemanship and training ability and knowing the ins and outs of horse racing and being good citizens of the industry. So we feel that we're going to really shut the door down on a lot of novices entering the training profession. I think that's very important and so on. And there's positive repercussions in regards to how our 2-year-olds are handled at our racetracks day in and day out.
Thank you. Anything else in commission?
From the audience members here, any comments regarding 16.47.1.10 trainer? Mr. Brett.
Mark Brown. I'm concerned about under B, 4, 5, and 6. The trainer who points up with a catastrophic injury that's due to a race injury shall have their entire stable ineligible handlers for minimum of 1 week. All horses must pass a soundness exam that. And we don't have power on every kind of this. I'm a prime example of a guy that we set aside. I've trained for years now. A year ago at Rio Dosa, on the big weekend, I had a horse that had never taken a source test. The veterinarians had checked it. You put both front legs off going into the grandstands. And I can be penalized for something that I hadn't done wrong. The horse was sound and that, the vet stubborn. And you want to penalize me and my owners for a week? And then the second one is for 30 days. I mean, things happen and horses will break down. I understand what the intent of this is we got guys that are running horses that shouldn't be in that. But on the first offense, I think it's questionable on whether the regulation should be that stiff on that. And on tying up the whole barn on another matter that's similarly related to this, I brought up in the past to Commissioner Smith and Director Trejo on some of the bad blood testing, class 1s, class 2s, albuterol and clenbuterol. I've mentioned that maybe we should tie up their whole stables for 30, 60, 90 days so that they're not doing the paper train that and so the owners of that. And that's something that the trainers have control of. But the trainer doesn't always have control of maybe a bad racetrack, getting hit out of the gates, a horse slipping and breaking his back. That happened to Reed also this year with some guys in that. And I think that putting it with the first injury is a little overreaction in that. And because things do happen and horses will break down. Where will put this from? I think,
Commissioner,
Chairman, Commissioners, we feel that there could be room for some modification of this rule for accidents that occur during races, no fault of the trainer. Horse gets cut off, goes down, experiences a catastrophic injury because of that. Personally, I don't think we feel that that trainer should be accountable for anything that involved in an accident.
Commissioner Smith, how can you rewrite that to, I do agree with him on, that's a little harsh. I mean, I agree with him on the 10-year-old on the class 1 road, that barn can be shut down. I do that. I agree with that. But making him responsible for something that's an accident, shutting their barn down and hurting the other owners in the process, we need to clean that language up, don't we?
Yeah.
And another thing about Commissioner Sanchez, if let's say they claim a horse and you run them and this happens, I mean that's a horse that was under someone else's care, and then you run them and they break down. I mean that penalizes that trainer also. So you need to look at all that.
No, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, certainly this is a rule that could use some discussion and some modification.
What paragraph's that in that's talking about kind of?
absolutely sure it's under B. It's
Page 40, Commissioner.
on page 40. Yeah.
Thank you.
This is a trainer who suffered a catastrophic injury and due to race-related injury. What are you training?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we feel that we should add that verbiage, the training act, incident.
Or get her training while we're right. I think running a race, so.
Yes, that's one thing I believe we intended to put in there to get the rest.
Commissioner Buffington, do the tracks have the ability to do that?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Buffington, Commissioner, we've seen where racetracks have shut down trainers' operations. I believe there's Sunlight Park, it's a handful of years ago. And the tracks do.
But you have the authority.
They have the authority
That's my
to
question.
bar horses or bar horses
Okay.
or people participating on their property.
So we don't have the authority to do that.
We do. You have the authority to put a rule in.
The tracks also have that authority to do that.
Yes, they have a pretty powerful patent property.
And as it should be, I'm just stating that.
And then you remember it happened at that track and not at the other track.
Right, exactly. Which was the track decision.
Right.
So I'd like to see it cleaned up and not perfect. The other owners, you know, I mean, it can happen to one of the best trainers out there. And, you know, he's got 100 and some horses and 60 or whatever it is, and that devastates those owners. You know?
And you'd be scratching a lot of horses, perhaps.
Yeah, and that.
That's why I think put it on the first horse is unreasonable and it doesn't even common sense.
We just need to clean it up, make sure that we don't hurt the innocent and, if the police do, I think the, commission should step in and, you know, then we step in. And maybe clean it up, because official, we step in and we close them down. And give them the chance, the owner, to move all their horses, not all one train, spread them out. So that creates paper trainers who do that. Can't give each trainer more than 5 horses.
I think, Commissioner Bowman, I think this is one of the places where the term may, as opposed to shall, might be appropriate.
Absolutely. No, we don't disagree, commissioners, with anything you've mentioned. This is something that, you know, I think the industry or the regulators need to address it from a certain angle. You know, I don't know that there's a perfect way to do it, but I certainly hear what you say, and we certainly take the path of modifying that rule and try to make it a little more even and fair.
And Commissioner, like we do have some virtual hands raised, but we will be on color. My apologies, Mr. Brown.
Excuse me, you know, like a vet inspection of all my horses, I would have no problem with that if it didn't shut the whole barn down. They can come into my barn anytime. And if I have a horse that's got a little shin, sort of suspensions or whatever, I don't mind looking at it because I'm not going to run that horse. But anyway, it's just a matter of making it such a hard drive, like talking, because I know that catastrophic injuries can happen at any time to anybody in that. And on the first deal, it's just stupid. But thank you.
Virtual comments, Ms. Chavez?
Miss Alexander?
Ms. Alexander, you've got 3 minutes to comment on the trainer role.
Thank you, sir. Again, this commission has completely, utterly devoted itself to failing to enforce the rules as they exist now. This is really it's very ironic. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say comical, but it is ironic. You're going to talk about a catastrophic injury on a horse, and if a trainer has, you know, more than what you approve, you're going to rule this person off and all their horses. I have demonstrated time and time and time again that if you pay attention to the data, okay, and this is what got you guys in trouble with the governor, and I'm going to make sure it gets you in trouble with the legislature, because you do not want to track horses that are dying on track grounds. You have horses that are being doped in the middle of the night. You have 2-year-olds dying of heart attacks, okay, walking to the walker. walking out of their stalls. That is not normal, people. And if you were to actually do what you're supposed to and track these horses and these deaths that are occurring on the racetrack, you would see crystal clear that we have a problem that is held and maintained within certain groups. Okay, I have demonstrated that in black and white over and over and over. Now, the other issue is, what is the point of recording all of this and going through all the rigmarole of a necropsy when I can't even get records from you guys about the necropsy samples that your investigator, Lisa Johnson, destroyed after the All-American trials? Okay, Mr. Bustamante, you continue to send me illegally redacted documents. Where are the rest of the samples for that necropsy? And again, we have the same trainer, Mr. Keaton, that was allowed to quote unquote bar Miss Johnson from his stable just a few years ago because his horses were sweating in the middle of the night. Okay, and Mr. Trejo, I still have our text message conversation regarding that and the quote unquote special treatment, special favor, and your own complaints about how Miss Johnson has allowed things like this to happen. So until this commission is going to accept my challenge, look at the documentation that I've been providing you, look at the documentation that I've provided to the legislature, and if you would like a head start on the documentation that I intend to provide the legislature, I
30 seconds left.
will be more than happy to provide it to you. However, I probably won't do it through Mr. Bustamante because, amazingly, none of my correspondence seems to make it where it's dedicated. Mr. Bustamante, I'd really appreciate those records, by the way.
Any additional public comments on Zoom, Mr. Chavez?
There are two more, but can I ask for a quick, just a couple minutes, because it looks like my computer space is overmaxed and the recording has stopped.
Given that situation, honorable commissioners, I would perhaps suggest that maybe we break for lunch now.
There's two more hands raised. Do you really want to stop right in the middle?
You want to get this out? Yeah, we do have another device that's recording, so I'm understanding. Let's go ahead and hear those other virtual comments.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you. If you could please identify yourself, your association, and you have 3 minutes, please.
Hi, my name is Jill Giles. I'm an owner and a wife of a trainer. And I think that these rules need to be taken strictly off. They should not even be in NMAC. I can see where the tracks can regulate it themselves, but a trainer doesn't knowingly take a horse out to get it broke down on the tracks. Things happen out of the blue. We had one this year in Ruidoso that had broke its back. Another horse had broke its back in the exact same spot on the track. So is it my horse's fault? Is it the other horse's fault? Is it the track's fault? You guys are trying to regulate something that, to me, is not right, because things do happen. They're accidents. I can see if it is the same person continually. But if you notice, when things do happen to you personally, they usually happen in threes. And so I just think that we need to step back from this, because a trainer does not knowingly go out to send a sore horse to get it broke down on the tracks. And to go ahead and ban that whole barn from running for 7 days, you guys are putting a big thing on a trainer that all of his owners now can't run. So are they going to come back and sue you because they're paid in the All-American? They made the All-American and their trainer happened to have one break down a week before and now they can't run. I just don't think it's right. I think it should be taken off of your rules. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Chavez, any other virtual hands?
Yes, sir.
Please identify yourself, your association, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Representative Ezell. Two things. I'm going to speak as a representative and as an owner. I agree with Ms. Giles. to punish the whole barn whenever there might have been something beyond the trainer's control that happened to a horse, but to stop that whole entire barn from running is ridiculous. As far as your revocation aspect of it, whenever I'm assuming that this commission is very in tune with the reciprocity from other states. If a trainer or a jock or whatever the case may be has been denied or suspended from another track in another jurisdiction, that it holds true from New Mexico. If they are not playing by the rules in some other track, are we really going to allow them to come into our state? And if that's the case, I have a problem with it. If we have trainers, jocks, whatever the case may be, going elsewhere that have been banned from running in the state of New Mexico, are these other states informed of that particular scenario? Can anybody answer that for me?
Sure. Izzy Trail, Director of the New Mexico Racing Commission. In regards to suspensions, we certainly reciprocate with other jurisdictions. Now, do other jurisdictions reciprocate with us? I don't know. Now, people that get in trouble in one place traditionally bounce around from racetrack to racetrack to see where they can get license. But that's all I got to say about it.
Yeah, but we do that if someone's banned in, let's say, Texas. We don't put one, right? Okay, that's the important part. That someone banned, the Commissioner Sanchez, by the way, someone banned in another state, we won't accept them here. And I just want that clear.
That is correct, John.
Okay.
Okay, and therefore it brings up in statute, in law, it says if there is a person that has been found in violation of rules governing racing in this state or other jurisdictions. So it's very plain there. I just want to know if we are following what the law says and how this, what are the means of transporting this information to other jurisdictions or other jurisdictions coming into the state. To me, that's very, very important because we do have some bad actors out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other Zoom comments, Ms. Chavez?
Yes, Leslie Fincher.
Ms. Fincher, if you could identify yourself, your association, and you have 3 minutes, please.
Oh,
Not there no more?
she needs to unmute herself.
Ms. Fincher, I think you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, please proceed.
Identification of myself as an owner, a breeder, ex-trainer. I learned the trade from the bottom up, including the wheelbarrow and the pitchfork. I have a problem with this just like Jill and Candy does. You're overstepping. You don't micromanage stables or horses. Accidents happen. What I'd like to see is some regulations against the racetracks that apparently you bless that outlaw trainers that have no bad convictions of anything other than having good horses and competing in the state honestly, yet you let a racetrack disbar them from running at their meet. Are you aware what I'm talking about? Do you have any jurisdiction over that? You want better horses. These trainers bring better horses. Then all of a sudden you're going to limit them to what horses they can bring. What are they supposed to do with the rest of them? You guys don't look at the whole picture. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face. In the comments, just look at the big picture. But letting tracks start charging people, including the horsemen, money to go to the races, when they welcome them to the casinos, which the race horse people are putting on the show that allows them to do that, there's something wrong with this picture. Do you agree, or do you think it's just okay? They own the business, but they have to be licensed and approved by you. You disbar the horsemen from any participation. This is the first meeting in over a year that you've even allowed public comment. How do you expect to improve the industry when you eliminate the very gut of the industry? You got to quit micromanaging and take in some common sense. Look at your rules. Look how it's affecting people. You're running people out of the state in droves. End of comment.
Thank you, Ms. Fincher. Any additional Zoom comments, Ms. Chavez?
No, sir, I see no other hands raised.
Honorable Commissioners, I recommend that perhaps we break for lunch now. When we come back, we would have 3 more exhibits to go through and then proceed shortly thereafter the deliberations.
There's only 2.
Exhibit 23, the one we'll talk about. Yeah.
Can we just get through them?
We can continue if you want, Commissioners. It's up to you, obviously.
Yeah, why don't we finish these 2?
Okay.
We'll do that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, sir. We are proceeding now to Exhibit 21. That is tab S, page 41. And that is Rule 16.47.1.17 NMAC, human drug testing. Honorable Commissioners, any questions for Commission staff regarding the suggested revisions to that rule?
That's Commissioner Buffington, what page is that on?
That is page 41, sir.
Okay, yeah, just the reason for the limit on blood alcohol, 0.035. The scientific, the reason why that's the limit is that that's the limit. Blood alcohol. Yeah. Yeah, that's my question, why that number is that. I know driving is 0.08, but that seems to be
You could do a mouthwash and get tested for 0.435. So give you 0.435.
We have a process for that situation.
So the question is that number, the 0.035 is.
Oh, we're going to get a hold of our investigation.
She's gonna.
We can address that. Thank you. And this is Investigator Garcia. Ms. Investigator Garcia, the commissioners are wondering regarding the human drug testing changes, and we have with regard to alcohol, the results of a breath test showing a reading of more than 0.035 BAC in the sample provided by the licensee. And the commissioner, obviously, it's 0.08 for a criminal conviction. Can you shed some light regarding why here the proposal is 0.035 BAC?
When this started, the program that we're currently working on now, that was the rule in place. We haven't, but according to the criminal, it's 0.08. If you get pulled over by a state police officer in traffic or on the road somewhere. But in this matter, these guys are dealing with horses, riding horses at 0.08. Different people, different weights can be different. can be liberated a little bit differently each person. So me at 0.8 could be different than you at 0.08, or you at 0.08, depending on our size, weight. So the 0.035 for non-safety, or for, non-safety positions. I mean, we get it, grooms may drink in the back. After a long day, we're coming to the paddock fully liberated and possibly injuring themselves or anyone else is a big concern. It's happened. I've had it happen to one barn several times over the last couple of weeks. Their grooms totally blowing up the machines. So it's very dangerous when you're out there, can't hold the horse, can't move because you're too liberated and you're just tripping over everybody else. So it provides a better safety net if we just don't have it so high. Because we don't know how that person is going to be at 0.08. Again, we're all different. We all.
I mean, mistaken, but the blood level takes in the 0.08 takes in small, large. A smaller person would probably consume less alcohol to get to 0.08 than a large person, but it's still the measurement is that.
And I've considered people who drink. Personally, I'm not a big drinker, but someone else could drink 0.08 might be nothing.
Yeah, but it's still going to show up.
Yeah. But me compared to them, someone who don't drink very often, someone who does, I may show really liberated if I'm in the paddock trying to do a horse, saddle a horse, compared to someone who's always drinking and so you gotta sit.
I think the level determines that. And you're right, some people are going to be more functional at a higher level than someone else, but it's still the level. The level.
And I mean, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, if you feel that this level needs to be adjusted or modified, then we'll need
that work. Thank you.
Give me an explanation of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Investigator Garcia. Commissioners, any other questions? Okay. Do we have any comments of the folks in the room? Mr. Brown, please.
And Mark Brown, again, trainer that. Under this same rule of testing, under D, trainers and assistant trainers, there's a zero tolerance of the influence in that. What is the withdrawal time on alcohol? If I go out to dinner with somebody the night before, I have a cocktail and 2 glasses of wine to dinner, and I have to saddle a horse the next day. Am I going to be at zero tolerance? I mean, it's there again. The question, the level is, zero tolerance is zero tolerance.
And let's stay out till 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the withdrawal time is on alcohol. It's just like Billy else in the body. Tell me the hour. Well, Billy doesn't have a withdrawal time. Well, Billy, but that's there again. You might be too restrictive on the trainers and that because of what can happen and stuff. And I agree with the intent of what they're trying to do, but whether the restriction there again might be too stringent or we have to go over science on what happens.
I think the level will fix that up if we change the level.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
So you got 2 levels. You got one for the trainers and then you got one for everybody else.
Which one is the trainers?
Trainers are under E and it's zero tolerance for them.
Oh,
that's why I'm bringing up, yeah.
Any other in-person comments to this?
Is Don Cookman, Johnson, Albuquerque. So when we talk, are we changing these numbers? Are we coming up with, what are we doing now? Just we're kicking it back to the commission, you guys making the changes now.
When we make the rule change, then that's when we're gonna address it. We're just getting.
Where is it? Zero tolerance.
Mr. Chairman, the federal law, this requires a state agency to come up with a drug and alcohol testing program. So that's why we had some very old rules in our books. So we upgraded them with some pieces from different jurisdictions and so that's why we got what we got here.
Okay, got it. And then how many more items on that? How many more items do we have?
One more item.
Okay, I do have 3 minutes. I would like to make a request when we're done. Can I do that?
Okay, all right, okay. Any other in-person comments regarding the human drug or controlled substance alcohol testing? Ms. Chavez, do we have virtual hands?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You could identify yourself, your association, and you have 3 minutes, please.
Vanessa Alexander, investigator. Now, Ms. Garcia tried very hard, and I'll have to give her some points for her effort. But to answer the question that she was originally asked, 0.01 to 0.03% is actually the lowest measurable blood alcohol level. I mean, that should have been an answer right off the bat. It's considered a mild level of intoxication. The issue that is going to get you guys in more trouble is you've got two issues actually. So when you have issues that are going to affect the blood alcohol content of an individual, you have impacts such as when the drinks were consumed, their body weight, their water composition, if they're diabetic, whatever medications they're taking, if they're a male or a female. There are so many things that could contribute to a blood alcohol level being at such a low level. And even then, legally, 0.08 is actually the legal level of quote unquote intoxication. And yes, we do reach a criminal threshold at that point. But the other issue, the fact that as I understand it, your so-called investigators are going to be the ones administering this, you're going to get sued. You're going to lose every single time this is challenged. And several reasons is number one is the incompetence. Number two is the fact that it is documented, okay, that the training, the subpar and mediocrity of your personnel, especially somebody doing something as important as accusing somebody of being intoxicated, that is going to blow up. All right. I had an issue with Investigator Garcia in July, where I represented a horseman in a bogus case that was completely retaliatory, which was documented, and your investigator had no problem lying under oath and impeaching herself. Miss Johnson is a foregone conclusion. The credibility and the intent of what the Racing Commission is trying to do here, it is lost in the chaos of the incompetence. If you are going to do something like this, then it needs to be administered by somebody that is independent of the commission and competent. Otherwise, this is just going to be another boatload of lawsuits to add on to the 100+ that this commission has already lost.
Any additional virtual questions or comments, Ms. Chavez?
Yes, sir. State Representative Candy Izell.
Ms. Izell, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Some of the comments are right on point. Unfortunately, the state of New Mexico now has it where we can legally smoke marijuana if that is of your choosing. But the problem I have, we saw this happen last year at Ruidoso. Test barn, you bet there should be no drugs or alcohol back there of any way, shape, or form. Unfortunately, whenever this surprise checking of all the barns was going to take place, the word went out the night before, so everybody knew to get all of their stuff out of there. But how is the testing going to be done that will not be challenged in court? Who is capable of running these tests? Are we going to have somebody from the police force come in and do this? I just really have a problem with that. There are going to be lots of lawsuits that do take place, but no tolerance needs to be the norm here, and unfortunately it's not. But it can't happen if we're going to do a surprise sweep of barn areas whenever everybody knows about it prior to. So whenever the word goes out, guess what, folks? We're just spinning our wheels there. And that's, and also whenever there is out of out of competition testing, sometimes off of the racetrack areas, which it's supposed to happen that way. Are these people going to be tested at their places where they normally stall horses, not at the racetracks? Is that going to be part of the out of competition testing as well? I mean, that raises a lot of questions in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Azell. Ms. Chavis, any other virtual hands?
No, sir, I see no other hands.
All right. Honorable Commissioners, proceeding to Exhibit 22, that is tab T, page 43. Any questions for Commission staff regarding 16.47.1.18 NMAC entitled Testing Procedure? Do we have any comments from the audience members here with us today? Ms. Chavez, do we have any virtual hands raised?
Yes, sir. State Representative Candy Azell.
Representative Azell, 3 minutes, please. Representative Azell?
She needs to unmute herself.
Please unmute yourself.
There we go. Thank you. Under subsection A, B, and C of 1647.117, subsection A, B, C, and D of 1647.118, it's talking about both alcohol and drugs in both of them. But then whenever you finish reading those particular paragraphs, it says, create progressive penalty system for licensees who test results show presence of alcohol. It says nothing whatsoever in regards to the drugs. And it's that way in both of them. I think, in my opinion, maybe we need to have a ruling from the Attorney General's office if we need to make sure that that also includes drugs. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Azell. Ms. Chavez, any others?
Ms. Alexander.
Ms. Alexander, you have 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. So I got a question for the commission. Let's say you're a horseman and you have had, several, stewards hearings, you've appealed, you've had administrative hearings, and let's say you've even had to go to district court. And and I'm phrasing this because this has happened. But if it is the investigators, the Racing Commission's investigators, that are going to be the ones administering these tests, I would refuse. I would absolutely refuse, especially if I am one of the many horsemen who have had their cases reversed for retaliation, for your investigators lying under oath, being impeached over and over and over. This is completely unenforceable by any personnel of the Racing Commission, and that's a fact. And you don't like it the way I say it, that's fine. You're going to have to listen to it when it comes up in court, and it already has. So you need to think further ahead about what you're trying to accomplish here. And I understand, but most of what this commission has done is dog and pony, and we just want to make sure we appear that we're doing something. But the governor was pretty irate with her letter in August about any meaningful changes, and these aren't it. These changes are unenforceable. I wouldn't allow either of your investigators within a mile of me with the BAC, especially if I was an attorney, given both their documented histories. So you're going to have to take this one back to the drawing board in a big way. You're going to have to figure out how to have some outside entity do this, and especially people that are well trained and know what they're talking about. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
You. Any additional virtual hands raised, Ms. Chavez?
I see none. Oh. Sorry, Leslie Fincher just raised her hand.
Ms. Fincher, you have 3 minutes, please.
It's just an overall comment on all this stuff is that if you'd involve the horsemen in your discussions and your proposed rule changes, you wouldn't have all this stuff coming up now. Perhaps they could go so far and then have an open discussion. But the horsemen are the integral part of this whole deal, but you seem to want to ignore them. I myself used to be on the mailing list. I just found out about that this morning. I'm unqualified to comment on the exact rule, but you need to get the Horsemen's Association back in control on the horsemen's side, not the breeders, not the commission. It's a collaborative cooperation of everybody. Name tellers now, bank tellers, everybody's wearing rubber gloves because they don't want to have cross-contamination should they be drug tested or something. It's an ongoing problem, and when you're getting down into micro milligrams or micro, however small they go, you know, you're just creating more problems. The horsemen need to be involved in all this decision making. They're the ones putting on the show. They are the ones that are allowing the casinos to make multi-million dollars. But we don't want them anymore. We got the gaming for them, and now we're being thrown under the bus. It's just ridiculous, this whole situation where for years you just decide we're not necessary. We don't allow any comments from the horsemen. And then we have no comments on medication, no comments allowed on rules and whatever it's affecting our livelihood. It's just been an atrocity overreach by a commission that, in my opinion, is not qualified either to be on the commission or to know the rules of racing. ARCI is the perfect example to accredit officials. I know of people that have applied that are accredited that have been denied by your executive director being a steward. Why and the reasoning, I don't know, but it's all a problem that needs to be addressed. You're affecting everyone involved, from children up to their parents who are making a living. You're just destroying it. And the comments.
Thank you. Any other virtual hand raised?
No, sir.
All right. Honorable commissioners, at this time, I suggest that we break for lunch. And perhaps, I apologize.
Yes, Don Cook with the Albuquerque Chairman. Please. Chairman Commissioner Don Cook with Downs at Albuquerque. Downs at Albuquerque, we requested to table all rules mainly pertaining to FISA. We jumped around quite a bit. Early in the hearing, we didn't get to discuss a lot of items. Maybe our fault, but we need to form a rules committee. I know we have a lot of changes to make on these rules. We need to form a rules committee, then present these rules to you. Form a committee. We discuss all these items we've discussed today. Then we present them to the commission instead of now going through all these changes and then putting them on you before you adopt them. Because once we get to the adoption process, these all should be done. All these changes need to be made now before you adopt these rules. So everything we discussed earlier needs to be changed before we go into the adoption process. So I'm requesting the table, really this whole rule set. We kick it back to a committee that we form. Whoever wants to be on, we form this committee. We discuss all these rules, then we present it to you. And have a committee with a veterinarian on, have a committee with maybe not all the tracks, a few of the tracks, horse breeders, have a commission chair to the meeting. So that's my request. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Hearing Officer, this is Dan Rubin, Attorney General's Office. If I may request that staff introduce as the next exhibit, I believe would be exhibit 23, a list, all the written comments be compiled into a formal exhibit as 23. And if I could request that staff, I believe that if there's an attendance sheet in the room, if that could be attached as exhibit 24. Any response from staff on that?
And thank you, Assistant Attorney General Rubin. Just to clarify, at the start of the meeting, Honorable Commissioners, if you look at page 16 of your material, at the very top, there is Rule 15.2.4.6 objective. That has what we think is a minor change, and I suggest that that be made exhibit 23. Unfortunately, when we were compiling the list, it's just one sentence, so that didn't make the initial list. So with that said, I believe that Mr. Rubin, we'd have to have a motion to amend the agenda to add that exhibit 23, which is Rule 15.2.4.6 NMAC.
Mr. Hearing Officer, are you saying that we need a change to the agenda to admit an exhibit as part of the rulemaking?
Well, that's what I'm asking you, is because the list of exhibits we initially produced, we unfortunately missed 15.2.4.6 because it was just one sentence that was being modified. So I suggested making that exhibit 23, allowing the commission to question as well as public comment. And my question to you is, would we have to have a motion to amend the agenda to do that?
Was the agenda specific? The numbering of the exhibits, Mr. Hearing Officer, is not substantive. I am just asking that as a matter of substance, in addition to all the proposed rules, which are exhibits, we have the written comments as a separate exhibit. That is all.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Assistant Attorney General Rubin. What I would suggest, Commissioners, is that perhaps we break at lunch this time. We have a couple of questions and we need to discuss with Attorney General Rubin. And then once we commence back up, we'll proceed with the rest of the meeting. So how does the commission feel about that?
That's fine. So let's break for lunch.
Okay. Okay. And we will be returning at, you want to do an hour?
No. Yeah, let's give it an hour.
Okay. All right. Then it is 12:45 now. We will be back in session at 1:45. And thank you, everybody, for your cooperation and patience.
Thank you.
That's what it is. That's what we're going to say.
Comments from the New Mexico Horse Breeders Association. We received written comments from Chris Mackerlane of Zia Park. We also received public comments from Fred Heinrich of Sunland Park. And I believe that's it for written comments.
This is Dan Rubin, AG's office. Chairman Sanchez, members of the commission, and also for the benefit of staff, if the staff could please post to the website all the written comments. I understand it is also going to be an exhibit, a separate exhibit, all the written comments, but the law does require that the written comments be posted as well to the website. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
No problem. Okay, now read out the names that were here. That way it's all on record.
The people present at the meeting today were Tom Gontroff of New Mexico Horse Breeders Association, Mark Brown of the New Mexico Horse Breeders Association, Fred Heinrich of Sunland Park, Mary Barber of the New Mexico Horse Breeders Association, Steve Fedunak of Sunray Park, Don Cook of Downs at Albuquerque, Mike Logan of the New Mexico Horse Breeders Association, Paul Blanchard of the Downs at Albuquerque. And I believe this says W.J. Maury,
WL.
and he didn't put his affiliation.
Yeah, well, WL Warren Farms.
And as far as the people on Zoom, I need to do a list at the end of the meeting.
And I better, I think that now that we got all that down on record, I think it's better. Okay, fine.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sanchez. The public comment submitted and heard in today's meeting will be considered and discussed by the commission during the open public meeting following today's hearing. And at that follow-up meeting, the commission will formally vote on the proposed rules that were discussed and comments were heard today. Any adopted rule will include a concise explanatory statement that can be provided to any individuals who participated in the hearing today. If people want the concise explanatory statement of any adopted rules, when that in fact occurs, they are to send their email address to our commission law clerk, Denise M. Chavez, and her email address is Denise M. as in Mary, .Chavez at rc.nm.gov. We will also eventually post, once the entire meeting is finished, the record will also be found on the commission website. Obviously, I understand this has been a lengthy day, and normally we would proceed now to the deliberating and voting on the proposed rules, but I understand that the commission would like to entertain a motion to conclude this portion of the hearing and at a future time, set a date and a time and give public notice for the deliberation and voting on proposed rules. Do I understand that correct, Vice Chairman Sanchez? Okay, all right. There's a motion.
So moved, Commissioner Smith. Okay, second, Buffington. The motion is second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes, and the date is not established yet. Once we establish the date of the next meeting, we'll put it up. We'll notice it. Just to let you know. Okay. It's good. I think it's going to be after the first of the year because there's so much going on for the holidays and all this stuff. Just to let you know that. Sometime after the first of the year. And can't tell you when.
And just to clarify, each commissioner has been provided with copies of every comment that was submitted. And thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
And happy holidays to everybody.
We conclude, is there we get a motion to conclude or not?
This is Dan Rubin again at the AG's office. You do not need a motion to conclude. There's no further business on the agenda for today now that you've moved to have the deliberations at your next meeting.
Okay.
So just a gentle reminder not to discuss the case amongst you, the rules amongst you, but you should always deliberate in an open meeting on these.
All righty. Thank you so much. Good.
Thank you very much, folks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll see you guys about a month or so, whenever. Go from there. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you.